You're listening to the New Artist Workshop.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere. Not like here. Here everything is soft and smooth.
Hello and welcome back to your favorite podcast. Now that's what I call a franchise. I'm Peter Mancuso.
And I'm Viviana Metzger, and this is the show where Peter and I pick a film franchise and go through every single installment. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
And to be clear, we're defining a franchise as a series of films with at least 4 entries. So, Viviana, what are we talking about today?
Alrighty, so today we are talking about the 2002 film Star Wars, Episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
Must you say the colon?
Well, it's the full thing.
I started that as a joke.
Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Well, because it helps when you're listening auditorily.
But they'll see it in the name of the episode.
I suppose, but what if someone's folding laundry?
I don't think they need to know the punctuation.
Anywho.
But they do need to know the spoiler warning.
Anyways, this is your one and only spoiler warning, so if you haven't watched the movie, go do that before listening to this episode.
Clones! They're attacking!
Anywho.
Why don't you read
the letterbox blurb. Yeah. I know my lines.
Oh, okay.
Get out of here.
Oh, okay.
Fred.
Who?
Get out of here, Fred.
Who's Fred?
I don't know. Letterbox blurb. Following an assassination attempt, many attempts, on Senator Padme Amidala, Jedi Knights Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi investigate a mysterious plot that could change the galaxy forever.
And it does.
Does it?
Well, it leads to the Clone Wars, basically.
Yes.
Though, now coming to think of it, the whole assassination subplot really has nothing to do with the beginning of the Clone Wars, kind of. I guess it does, but it's very indirectly.
Yeah, because they get captured.
It seems like Dooku's only doing it because the new Gunray's like, we'll join you if you help us assassinate Padme Amidala because we're still pissed about 10 years ago. That seems to be the only connection.
Why is he beefing? He was beefing so hard.
With a 14-year-old! Well, now she's a woman.
I know, but it's just so silly because I thought it was funny the way he was reacting, but then you were like, but he's just talking about something that happened like 10 years ago. And I was like, oh shit, you're right. And so
he's holding that grudge
it was even
real
funnier.
And it's like, the fact that you didn't even go to jail. That's a plot point, is that he still runs the Trade Federation. Like, just be happy you're not in prison. In space prison.
Was he gonna? Because of...
After what happened in the last one. That was illegal.
Yeah, but they were working for...
For who?
For Sidious.
Sidious is not a legal actor. He's a shadowy figure.
I'm just saying they could say, we've been bullied.
We've been bullied. I don't think that works in court.
It's like...
We were bullied into it.
It's like with Lando, he's like, we were forced into it.
Yeah, I don't think Newt Gunray was forced into anything. So here's some basic info about the movie. So once again, directed by George Lucas, written not only by George Lucas. I didn't realize this until I was an adult. So this is the only one of the prequels that has an additional writer on top of Lucas. It also was co-written by Jonathan Hales, who I believe wrote episodes of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. George really loves just pulling from this random show, probably a non-union show. It was just like, let me pull. So I think Hales helped punch up some of the dialogue. And I don't think it... it'd be interesting to see which parts were Hales and which parts were Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are parts here... We talked about this when we were watching this, that... Like, in some ways, this movie's... Like, it's both better and worse than episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
That there are elements of it that are better, and then there are other elements that are... The elements that are worse than the better elements are better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes.
Like ultimately it's a net. Like there are things that this improves on, but the downgrades are so much of a downgrade. Right? Do you see what I'm saying? That it doesn't. It kind of overshadows the areas that improve on the last one. Right?
Yes.
Once again, produced by Rick McCallum. You kind of see, with Gary Kurtz doing the first two movies back in the 70s and 80s. He was kind of a producer that kind of pushed against Lucas, which as we've seen, Lucas is best when people are like kind of pushing against him, and like that creative friction is like what makes Star Wars great. Rick McCallum is like the biggest yes man in the history of modern Hollywood. Just like you watch like the behind the scenes, like he's literally just like there's a famous clip of him. I think it's talking about Revenge of the Sith, and he's just talking about like this scene that's so like dense with like way too many like CGI, like it's like a big space battle, and there's like 800 things happening. It's like not legible.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, like we're just pushing the technology. Every frame is just so dense. It's so, like that's not a good thing. If I can't tell what the fuck's going on, that's not a good thing.
If there's a potato slipping in there, it's a problem.
All right, well that's different. Once again, distributed by 20th Century Fox, released in May of 2002. It had a budget of 115 million and grossed 654 million. So a bit of a downgrade from the last one, because the last one grossed through re-releases, but there weren't too many re-releases of Phantom Menace. Phantom Menace grossed over $1 billion, whereas this only grossed 6,500, if I could phrase it that way. So definitely a little bit of it had the effect that the negative or the polarizing reaction of the last one definitely had an effect on this movie's box office, right?
For sure. Especially if everyone was like really mad.
And it
I didn't realize how mad people were.
People were really mad, and then I think I would love to see, because of course when I'm coming of age, like I'm 8 when Revenge of the Sith comes out. So by the time I really become aware, like I didn't know people hated the prequels until I was maybe in my tweens. As I became more online and started to understand like this.
Wait, you were 8 when this came out?
No, when Revenge of the Sith came out, I said.
Oh, Revenge of the Sith.
Right? So my point being is that by the time the prequels are said and done,
Yeah.
like or rather by the time I started to become aware of the cultural reaction to the prequels, the prequels had already been out for a while.
Yeah.
Right? So I would be very interested to see, and if anyone listening, you fit the bill, feel free to comment wherever you're listening to this. Like, what was the expectation going into episode 2? Were people like, okay, maybe the first one was a fluke, and then this one will be better? Was there just kind of like a blanket, just like, this is awful, and it's gonna be awful, like the next one's gonna be awful? Like, I'd be very interested to read or hear about
both.
like what were people's thoughts going into this one?
Probably both. I mean, it's
But
like
what was the predominant, I guess is what I'm
a
saying.
very like controversial situation.
Like, because people thought, because you know what?
Space is so controversial.
People probably saw the trailers for this and went, okay, some of the issues here are going to get resolved. Clearly, Jar Jar's not going to be in it as much.
Yeah.
We've replaced Anakin with, like, an actual man, adult man.
Yeah.
We hadn't seen his performance yet, but some people are just like, well, at least it's not the little
Have you been in
kid.
stuff? Do you know?
What's that?
Had you been in stuff?
Hayden Christensen had been in, like, a handful of movies.
Stuff, right?
Like, maybe, like,
Mine was Broken Glass or
Shattered Glass. That was
Shattered
after
Glass.
this.
Was
That was, like,
after.
2003 or 4.
Okay. So beforehand, I don't know.
I think he'd been in a few movies. There was this one movie, I forget what it was called, that he had a pretty prominent role as like the son. It was kind of like a dramedy kind of thing about like a divorced dad and his son. He was the son. He was in stuff. So he was in Virgin Suicide. What?
He's Canadian.
He is Canadian. What's wrong with Canadians?
Oh my god. I didn't know he was Canadian. This
I thought something was really wrong. The way you reacted, you like shivered.
He's Canadian. They're always sneaking up on us.
Replace Canadian with any other minority. And that would be really weird how you just like, they're always sneaking up on us.
No, it's just... I thought he was American. Oh, man. I guess he's from Vancouver, so it's not like he's got...
He's not from Quebec!
He's not got like a thick accent or something.
No.
Anywho.
Can I continue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yes, Virgin Suicide.
He was in Virgin Suicide as, I think, like, her date.
The weird guy. No.
He was in it, I remember. I remember pointing him out when we were watching it,
Not the
but I don't remember him. Like, I can't visualize it.
Oh, I think he was...
He's like one of the guys that goes to the dance with her.
He was in the car. Not,
yeah, he's like one of the dates. He's not like the main guy.
Yeah, not the football field.
No. But mostly no. So again, George Lucas's penchant for being like, the vibes. I'm casting you off of vibes.
Does he do that?
Yeah. Yes.
Does he say that?
In so many words.
What does he say to...
Well, I think he talks about he just had like the right look and something about him and whatever. I'm sure he probably couches it in like a director's instinct, but really it's just off of vibes.
Je ne sais quoi.
Yeah, je ne sais quoi, but maybe you should have say quad it, Lucas. Anyway, so in terms of previous experience with the movie, again, you've seen it before. I know at least minimum one time because we watched it years ago, but clearly we've talked about you clearly remembered the first and third one the most.
Yeah.
Though I'm gonna embarrass you. When we rewatched all the movies like 5 or 6 years ago, you said this one was your favorite, which I thought at the time was preposterous.
I don't know. I don't know why I said that. Probably because of the love story. But
you liked the love story.
But then, watching it, there is no love story.
there are things that happen.
It's a facade.
It's and that's the thing is that a lot of people it's like you gotta give Lucas props. Each prequel is hated, but for different reasons each time. It's not even just that's not entirely true because everyone complains about the wooden dialogue, the bad performances. But each movie has its thing. So the last one was Jar Jar and Anakin. This one now it's the love story, and so it's interesting that the reason you perhaps liked it the most is now one of the reasons why you don't quite like it.
Yeah.
Well, you've matured as a film connoisseur. Your tastes have developed a little bit.
I say the love story, but honestly, I don't know. I don't remember why.
Well, I did...
Oh, what?
I was just going to say, I did say earlier that in some ways this improves on the original. Or not the original, the previous one. And I think one of the ways, and maybe this is what you latched onto, is that I think it's more exciting.
Obi.
It's more entertaining. It's more entertaining on a very superficial level.
Oh yes, because there's a lot of world building. I love that.
Well, we the Obi-Wan's a little detective almost,
yes.
and then he's fighting with Django on Camino.
Yeah. Ooh.
Right, and then there's the big battle.
His head chopped off.
This huge, he did get his head chopped, but that was later. But so maybe that's what you latched onto. That it's very
I don't know. Yeah.
There are parts that are very exciting.
I think it's we're getting into it.
Whereas the issues with the last one was that it was just. At its worst, it was more just boring.
I guess.
Right? Whereas this one, I don't know if it's ever quite boring.
Stuff happened in the last one.
I didn't say it's boring the whole way through. I'm just saying at its worst. There's just a lot of parts of just really boring people just saying boring stuff. Whereas at least this one is when it's good, it's kind of good. And when it's bad, it's enjoyably, it's like funny bad. The love dialogue and the love romantic scenes are not boring. They're just bad. They're just big swings and misses, and that's more interesting than it just being boring. You know what I mean?
It's so weird. Why is he so creepy?
He's very creepy.
I guess maybe back then I was like, ooh, Hayden Christensen. Ooh.
Well, that's one of the big things.
What if he liked me?
If only you were so lucky. A lot of people, I feel complain that it's you went from one extreme to the other. So it's when you think of the idea of Star Wars prequels, you're and it's going to tell the story, the rise and fall of Anakin Skywalker. You're wow, we're going to meet this character who's a great Jedi, a great pilot, a great hero, who becomes corrupted.
Yeah.
He starts off as the most generic, annoying little boy, and then he's
very advanced for his age.
I'm talking about do we like this character? I don't care. He's a fictional character. I don't care how advanced he is.
Oh, I thought you meant just personality.
No, I'm just saying he's annoying.
Okay.
And then flash forward 10 years, And he's already like, yeah, I could see this guy becoming Darth Vader because he's like a psychopath.
He does. He does exhibit a lot of psychopathic.
I think one of the trivia points that I didn't put in because it's not quite trivia, it's just like someone's diagnosis. It was like, although Anakin Skywalker is a fictional character, some psychiatrists have diagnosed him with bipolar, like borderline personality disorder.
Yeah, he definitely, is like a sociopath or something. Like,
there's just something off about him. So it's like
he still yearns for a personal connection, but all the rest of the times he's like very like off-putting.
Yeah, and it's like George, we want you to make a character that we like, which makes it all the more tragic when he falls to the dark side.
Yeah.
I don't care about this guy at all. In fact, I actively root against him. He's such an awful, weird person.
It's like Dexter, but no funny voiceovers. So then it's just weird.
Like the show Dexter.
Yeah. The
Showtime show. But anyway.
Because then you're just watching him do stuff, and you're like, what the fuck?
Even before he commits a mini genocide.
Oh,
I'm not
even talking about that.
Yeah, even before that, his body language, the way he talks to everybody.
Yeah.
It's just uncomfortable.
Well, he's kind of a twit.
But I don't think he's meant to be, like, here's the thing. Diegetically and on paper, he's meant to be a character who's a young prodigy who's a little full of himself.
Yeah, he's a little too big for his britches.
But in execution, he's just an unlikable psychopath. And there's a difference, right? So someone I can imagine someone making the counter argument, being like, well, because still has lessons to learn, blah blah. No. He's not a likable character who has lessons to learn.
Mm-hmm.
He's just unlikable. On every level, except that he's attractive and she's attractive, so they gotta be smushed together.
He is quite attractive. I would say that's some good casting.
All right, I get the picture.
Good casting.
Okay, that's a reference to this one because it's so funny. Because they start a scene where they're out in the field, and presumably he asked her like, "When was your first kiss?" And she starts going on and on about Paolo. And then, without no word, she's like mid-sentence, and he's like, "All right, I get the picture."
Did he not share?
It'd be funny if he's like, all right, I get the picture. Like, it was more playful, but he was just like, all right, if you keep talking, I'm going to fucking murder you.
Okay, I get the picture. Anyway.
He's like, I'm going to go find this Paolo and murder him. Anyway.
Like, sorry, I grew up around people and you just grew up in the desert.
With a bunch of weird aliens.
Yeah.
Weird people and beefing with weird aliens like Sabulba.
Sorry, I was able to have a first kiss.
Yeah. That's right. His first kiss was probably when he kisses
probably
her.
Them, or probably her. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, unless maybe some fellow Jedi, maybe they snuck a kiss. Because here's the thing.
What?
Is obviously this isn't what George Lucas meant. Technically, the Jedis have rule against attachments.
Yeah.
There's no rule against sex. So theoretically, you can go fuck around and whatever. That's not against the. Theoretically, it's not against the rules.
Yeah, but there is still some like emotional element to it. Yeah.
No, the Jedis fuck. They don't care. Yoda's out. Yoda's like, I have to expel these urges. I must.
Ew.
And do you want to hear some background on the movie?
I guess.
So let's talk about the writing, if we can call it that. After the mixed critical response, to say the least, to The Phantom Menace, Lucas was hesitant to return to the writing desk. In March 2000, just 3 months before the start of principal photography, Lucas finally completed his rough draft for Episode 2. Lucas continued to iterate on his rough draft, producing a proper first and second draft. For help with the third draft, which would later become the shooting script, Lucas brought on Jonathan Hales, who had written several episodes of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles for him, but had limited experience writing theatrical films. Interesting. It doesn't show. Anyway, the final script was completed just 3 days before the start of principal photography.
Oh. Wait, that's weird though. But isn't? Oh, I guess it would be more difficult to write a theatrical film as opposed to a show because it's like spread out.
Well, with the show, especially the show like the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, it was very episodic.
Yeah, you can like tie it in like.
They would sometimes have arcs.
20 minutes. Like.
Yeah, exactly. And also, maybe this is unfair, but especially in the 90s, TV was still seen as like lesser. Mm-hmm. So the budgets were smaller. Mm-hmm. So it was like, better writers were in movies. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It shouldn't have been considered this way, but a lot of writers, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think Jonathan Hales was like a prominent television writer voice
No,
of the 90s. You know what I'm saying? So it's...
I'm just talking about, like, that's... I'm just talking about, I wonder what the difference is in terms of technicalities and you know...
It was longer.
And creative
You have to...
Well, yeah, but, like, you know, you can have, like, moments in shows, right? But I guess it's just like, okay, moment on top of moment on top of moment. But also there's some action, so I don't know.
With a theatrical film versus an episode of a TV show, it's like 5 times the length, if not more. One.
Yeah, but if they take, like...
And
like
2, but there's also more, so you can't yet... You need to fill it. It's not just longer, but you have to fill that time.
Well, what if you, like, take it in chunks, and then you can, like, kind of make it...
I don't know what his process was.
Oh, anyways, I was just curious about the creative process.
Anyway. I know, but we don't have any info about it, unfortunately.
Sure. Like, that's not interesting or anything.
I don't think he did any process. I think he probably just went,
I'm asking you!
Yeah, it sucked. I don't think he had a good... Whatever his process was, it wasn't good.
I'm not asking you what his process was, but, like, just in the general terms, how one would attack a situation.
Well, for me, I don't go chunk by chunk.
No, I'm saying because he's used to chunks, to make the chunks of the movie.
I think it's just practice.
And not just make one.
But this was the practice was showtime. The rehearsal was the performance. Like, there was no time to practice.
3
what I was
days
say.
before principal photography.
They finally turned
That's
in a
always
script.
great.
Well, we'll talk about with Revenge of the Sith, but there's a funny behind-the-scenes clip of George Lucas coming out with the final finished script, and he's like, "I finished it." Everyone's like, "Woo!" And he's like, "I cheated in a few places. I just wrote they fight." Anyway, going back to the background here. As an in-joke, the film's working title was Jar Jar's Great Adventure, a sarcastic reference to the negative fan response to the episode 1 character. So George Lucas is, if he's nothing else, he's petty. In writing The Empire Strikes Back, Lucas initially decided that Lando Calrissian was a clone and came from a planet of clones, which caused the Clone Wars, mentioned by Obi-Wan in A New Hope. We talked about that. That was the original idea of him.
Yes.
He later came up with an alternate concept of an army of clone shock troopers from a remote planet, which were used by the Republic as an army in the war that followed. So, it seems like even when he's making Episode 1, he's not quite sure what the Clone Wars is. He knows he's working towards that.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's I don't think in 1999 he has decided what the Clone Wars are.
Why would you say it?
I'm saying internally.
He just said it to say it?
Well, we talked about this. In the first movie, he name drops it because he wanted to evoke the idea of, like, World War II. And, like, his generation, like the boomers, the World War II was their parents' war. So it was like this mythic war where everyone with these great heroes.
I gotcha.
So when Luke says you fought in the Clone Wars, it's just George Lucas coming up with, like, what's a Star Wars-y version of that experience. And that sounds Star Wars science fiction-y. The Clone Wars, what is that, right?
Yeah.
It's only then later that he's like, well, shit, I'm going to have to come up with this, right?
Yeah.
And notably, so we talked about in between the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, there was a huge output of expanded material in the form of books, video games, comics, you name it, right? Notably, though, there were things that were off limits. And a majority of that was essentially anything before the original trilogy. So that's why most of the stuff that you see being produced from 1983 to 1999, with a few exceptions, but usually it's all from within the Star Wars. Like, if you go on Wikipedia, there's a dating system because, like, it's not like years. So basically, they do it like BC AD, but they use the Battle of the Death Star in the first movie as like 0. So they call it BBY and ABY before the Battle of Yavin, which is like the planet, and then ABY after the Battle of Yavin. So everything more or less produced from 1983 to 1999 took place in 0 ABY or onward. Because George Lucas was like, I want to touch this stuff eventually. So that's why you don't get any references, except for a few offhand references in a random book about like what happened in the Clone Wars or something that would then later get retconned by George Lucas, because again we talked about the different tiers of canon. So because these movies were something George Lucas touched, anything that a random book from 1992 said, if it contradicts something from the movies, it doesn't count.
Sure.
So the point being is that I think in 1999 he's probably like, shit, I gotta figure out like what the Clone Wars even are. In terms of the filming, at his personal request, Samuel L. Jackson's character Mace Windu received a lightsaber that emits a purple glow as opposed to traditional blue or green for good guys and red for bad guys. And I don't know if this is literally a cause and effect, but there is a clip of behind the scenes from episode 1 where I think we talked about where they're talking about,
oh yeah,
like if he gets a lightsaber in the next movie, he's like, can mine be purple? And George Lucas is like, well, for the good guys they're usually just green or blue, and he's like, yeah, but I like purple. And George Lucas kind of pauses and goes, maybe we can make it purple. Reshoots were performed in March 2001. During this time, a new action sequence was developed featuring the droid factory after Lucas had decided that the film lacked a quick enough pace in the corresponding time frame. The sequence's pre-visualization was rushed, and the live action footage was shot within 4.5 hours.
Oh wow.
And that's also a portion that people lambast. Is that the word, right? As being like almost like it's designed to be a video game later. Like it's like it feels like a Mario level where they're like going on the track and there's like the things coming down and which I mean I don't mind in the movie, and it did make a good level in Lego Star Wars. So what? Because of Lucas's method of creating shots through various departments and sources that are sometimes miles and years apart from each other, Attack of the Clones became the first film ever to be produced through what Rick McCallum called quote unquote virtual filmmaking. So there's a lot of like remote work because like you would have teams across the globe simultaneously working on stuff. So you might have a team in California doing certain VFX stuff, and then you have a team in New Zealand doing VFX stuff, and then you have filming in another part of the world, they're filming live action stuff, and it's like all happening at the same time. Wow. So it required, I guess, like that virtual like coordination. Not virtual in the sense that like George Lucas is like virtually directing, but
that's so weird.
In the sense that it's like it's not all localized to like a city or a region like California. It's like all over the globe.
That
essentially.
seems very dangerous.
Why is that? I mean, I don't disagree, but why do you say that?
Just like the making sure everyone's on the same page and
that's
doing what we're not supposed to, or doing especially doing another team's work, right? Or like Well, I'm sure there would be clear delineation. I don't think someone would accidentally do someone else's. No, I know, just like all at the same time, and it's like, okay, I want to do edits, but like so,
it's gonna affect 800 other things.
Yeah, so I'm gonna like give it to the animation team, like, hey, can you like edit this bantha? But then like we have like the FX team, and they've already like put that clip together
because they probably
like, oh, shit. Okay, now I gotta go back and like.
I wouldn't be surprised. They probably had a whole team just devoted to Yoda. Because that was again like how Jar Jar was very revolutionary. Yoda was even more revolutionary. Just by nature, if you compare the two. Yoda has a little bit higher fidelity in terms of being more photorealistic. Which I know that was like a big deal, like getting Yoda up and running. Which they were going to try to do for the last one, which we talked about. But it just wasn't ready. Yeah. So they ended up doing the puppet. Yeah. Which looked like he was on crack.
The scary one.
Like The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones furthered technological development, effectively moving Hollywood into the quote-unquote digital age with the use of the HDW F900 developed by Sony and Panavision, a digital camera using an HD digital 24-frame system. This was the first major movie, like we had said, the first major movie to ever be shot completely with digital cameras. Which is the standard now. But this was really a big deal. Yeah. For both, and I don't necessarily mean that in a good or a bad way. Just it definitely. And the next point here, this spawned controversy over the benefits and disadvantages of digital cinematography that continues as more filmmakers quote unquote convert to digital filmmaking, while many filmmakers oppose it. Lucas had said that he wished to film The Phantom Menace on this format, but Sony was unable to build the cameras quickly enough. Sony's cameras arrived 1 week before principal photography on Attack of the Clones was about to start. So they literally like built cameras literally just for this.
Oh wow.
Right? That they were. I think the F900. I think that was a camera that we used in school when I was at NYU, or a version of it. F900. It may have been an F something else, but at the time, again, it was like literally made like made to order.
The big guys, yeah.
It was literally like, can you make this for us? So again, you gotta give Lucas credit. He's always trying to push the technology forward, even if he doesn't always find the best applications for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's like maybe you should have focused more on the script and less time on the. I think we all would have been okay if we didn't advance. Like we were delayed 5 years in terms of advancing technology. If you had written a good script, I think we would have all been okay with that.
Maybe.
For waiting for better VFX.
Maybe.
Yeah. In 2002, Attack of the Clones became the third film to be released that was shot entirely on a 24p digital camera, preceded by 2001's Jackpot and VidCop? I don't know. The cameras record in a 16:9 HD cam format, or 1080p, although the image was cropped to a 2.40 to 1 widescreen ratio. The area above and below the 2.40 extraction area was available for Lucas to reframe the picture as necessary in post-production. So ultimately, they would film more than they needed, so that way if he wanted to, he could like zoom in if he wanted and kind of play around with it. Despite Lucas's efforts to persuade movie theaters to switch to digital projectors for viewing of episode 2, few theaters did. So while it was shot in digital, so it's kind of weird because a lot of times now movies will be shot on film and projected digitally.
Yeah.
This was like the reverse. So it was shot on digital, but most theaters still just had regular film projectors. That was the standard.
So they had to convert it back.
Essentially, you would. I imagine it's the same process that you would use in order to make any mass market amount of reels for a theater.
So it was the makers, not the individual theaters, right? Like.
No, the Lucasfilm would send in 20th Century Fox. They would send out the reels.
Yeah.
To theaters.
Because it seems like if he wanted them to not do that, then they would have to make it themselves. Do you see what I'm saying?
They would have to go buy digital projectors or something.
Yeah. Or
but they wouldn't do that. They were like, we're not going to spend that money.
Yeah.
If this was episode 1, maybe. I think by this point, maybe Lucas didn't have the pull that he maybe had 3 years prior. Where he's able to negotiate these ridiculous deals with theaters. And they'll do it because the snack revenue alone is worth it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, though, because you will later see this with Avatar. Avatar is really the movie that transitions us to digital projection becoming the standard. Not immediately, not overnight, but that movie really, because the digital 3D, right? I don't know if it was projected on film in 3D. I think that was a digital 3D process. So a big part of it is like if we're a theater, it's like shit. Well, we want to get on this 3D action.
Yeah.
So that kind of not kickstarted, but you know what I mean, kind of solidified.
That's a movie.
It is in fact a movie. Yes.
It does a lot for graphics and whatnot.
Well, this movie walked so Avatar could run. I mean, you don't get Avatar without George Lucas and Jar Jar and Yoda.
This is the Iron Man of it. Wow.
Well, I'm just saying in terms of like having fully realized non-monster. Like, yes, they're aliens, but they're not like dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Like these are full humanoid CGI characters.
Yeah.
Like they really broke the it was very revolutionary.
Yeah.
Despite everyone hating it, VFX artists were in awe of Jar Jar. That this could even exist on
It does look very cool.
on screen, right?
Yeah.
Especially in the late 90s, right? So these movies walk so that the Avatar could run. You know what I mean? You don't get
Textures.
I mean, I say that as if like if had these movies not been made, then that never would have happened. Someone would have done it.
I feel like that was also like somewhere in the beginning though, and then it just kind of like busted open the faucet and just like now everything is like it. You know?
Avatar?
Yeah.
Or
like
yeah.
in terms of like using so much CGI and like.
Yeah. Well, eventually
Stuff
the
like
thing
that.
was the issue with CGI at first was that it was a lot more expensive than just building a set.
Yeah.
But now it's become cheaper.
Yeah.
or not even cheaper, but just that it allows the filmmakers, quote unquote, the freedom to change their minds.
Yeah.
But that's why a lot of CGI sucks, is because like these VFX artists are getting essentially the order. It's like, as if they're a chef. They're getting the order kind of, and then there's a really quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Whereas with James Cameron's Avatar movies, like he'll work on them for like a decade.
Yeah.
Fine tuning every detail.
Yeah.
Right. So the issue now is that
the difference.
That they'll get the assignment, and they'll have a short turnaround, and then the assignment will change halfway through.
Yep.
Right. So that's the issue. Whereas with a physical set, you kind of have to lock in what you're gonna do, because then it's because someone needs to spend the time designing it and then building it and stuff. So so that also is part of it. Audiences were super interested in fully realized CGI worlds, and it was becoming more cost effective. So again, this movie, like, it had the prequels not been made, someone would have made the movie with like the first fully realized CGI humanoid character. Yeah. So it's not like without this, it never would have happened. But
no.
Ultimately, we do live in the timeline where it did. So we do. It deserves that credit.
Yeah, I think Jar Jar looks cool.
Yeah.
And you can see the different textures on his body, and like when he moves, it's not like blurry, like it's not like a.
It's a little mushy.
I mean, it's
still
a little blurry,
mushy.
but not as like much as you would expect.
Yoda is a big improvement off of.
Like, I don't know how to explain it, but
no, I know exactly what you're saying. That there's like a dissonance. It's hard to describe, but ultimately our eyes and our brain are very good at noticing, like, okay, that's real and that's fake. We're really good at that, right? Our brains. Yoda, I think, is leagues better, just because by nature of it being later. Yeah. And if you think about it, because he's shorter, like all jokes aside, he's shorter, so like there's less to do, so you can put more effort into each square inch of him, right? Yes, whereas Jar Jar is like this 7 foot. Wrinkle? He's like this, exactly. Whereas Jar Jar's like this 6 foot, lizard man.
And moving a lot, whereas like Yoda really just kind of sits there for.
So you can kind of really focus in on like the nuances of the performance, kind of.
Yeah, he's like a slower guy.
Well, we've already been talking about the VFX, just a little bit more here. So the film relied almost solely on digital animax as opposed to storyboards in order to pre-visualize sequences for editing early on in the film's production. While Lucas had used other ways of producing motion-based storyboards in the past, after The Phantom Menace, the decision was made to take advantage of the growing digital technology. The process began with Ben Burtt's creation of what the department dubbed as quote-unquote videomatics, so called because they were shot on a household video camera. In these videomatics, production assistants and relatives of the department workers acted out scenes in front of a green screen. Using computer-generated imagery, or CGI, the pre-visualization department later filled in the green screen with rough background footage. Burt then cut together this footage and sent it off to Lucas for changes and approval. The result was a rough example of what the final product was intended to be. The pre-visualization department then created a finer version of the Videomatic by creating an animatic, in which the Videomatic actors, props, and sets were replaced by digital counterparts to give a more precise but still rough look at what would eventually be seen. The animatic was later brought on set and shown to the actors so they could understand the concept of the scene they were filming in the midst of the large amount of blue screen used. So essentially, to translate all of that, they would just film in front of a green screen with just like random people. Yeah. And fill in the details and kind of figure out, like, this is what it would look like if we shot from these angles, whatever. And then they would do the same thing, but just take out the people part and just have, like, little, like, CGI figurines of people. And that, again, was good in the sense of if you think of movies as, like, an assembly line. Yeah. Because that really helps figure out what you want to do. But then the issue is that basically you're locked in as an actor because it's like, this is what it's going to be.
That's what I meant in terms of the different working teams.
Yeah, it kind of stifles creativity in a way. Yeah. Right? Because ultimately, the actors, depending on the scene, the actors really just become puppets. Like, you have to do this because this is how we've designed the whole thing. Right? And that's fine for, certain movies have certain moments like that. But when your whole movie is more or less like that, that can be really restricting as an actor. Right? Though I imagine at least having it was useful, because if you're standing in L.A. Jackson, you're just standing in a giant blue room. And you don't know, it's like when George yells action, like, you cannot see while you're acting, you can't see what's going to be on screen. If you're supposed to be on the planet of Geonosis, yes, and there's all this stuff flying around you, well, you're just on a blue screen in a big blue room. So you don't know what you're acting,
those?
what you're supposed to. Yeah, but not in 3 dimensions. Not like they might show you the animatic. So it's like imagine.
No,
but that's a lot different.
I just imagine a guy on the side with a fish wire, just floating a bee or something.
Yes, and that's been used to be helpful, but again, it's like you're not gonna get the same level of interaction the way you have like Mark Hamill interacting with the puppet Yoda.
Yeah.
Because even though he knows consciously it's not real, at least it's a physical thing in front of his eyes. Whereas a big thing that a lot of the actors in these 3 movies complained about is especially as they go on from 1 to 2 to 3, especially by the 3rd one, they're just acting against nothing.
Yeah.
And if acting is reacting, you're really more imagining things to react to, but you don't know what's actually gonna be there, even if they tell you. It's just you're just having to use certain muscles as an actor that an actor normally wouldn't have to use, like literally imagining it, as opposed to having something actually to react to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So then it's like...
So I don't think Frank Oz was on the set every day doing the Yoda voice. It was probably just a PA reading the lines.
So there's just they're kind of on top of it. It's not like they're in the environment.
Yeah, because again, they can't see it.
Or at least it seems
It's gotten to the point now where, when they're making the Avatar movies, they're able to render in real time. Like, James Cameron can sit, and while the actors are doing the motion capture work, because notably, Yoda's not motion captured. Motion capture is very specific. It's not just a stand-in, because Ahmed Best's Jar Jar was in a lot of the scenes. But he was there for reference. He was not being motion captured. He didn't have the dots that were tracking it, right? Something like Avatar or the Planet of the Apes movies, that's motion capture.
They do the dots.
I believe the technology has gotten so good that while they're in a big room for Avatar and they're doing motion capture stuff, James Cameron can watch a monitor.
Watch it on the screen.
And it's obviously not going to look like the actual movie, but at least even if they're gray, colorless, kind of almost like PlayStation 1 level graphics, he can kind of see what's happening, so the actors can't. But James Cameron doesn't have to wait 3 years to see what is the scene actually going to look like. Like, if they're supposed to be in a forest with all these trees, he can watch it with, early versions of, trees to see, okay, what's it going to be like as these characters weave through these trees?
Yeah.
Back then, they don't have that.
I have seen those. Models on screen.
He's watching it, in real time.
Yeah, but they're, like clay models or something.
It's very low, what you call, low polygon models, right? They are not fully rendered by any stretch. They usually don't have any physics systems, right? So, if a character, it won't have, their clothes swaying. It'll just be, the figure.
Yeah.
Right? Lucas does not have that luxury here. And nor do the actors. So a lot of this is just okay, so Sam, in this shot, you slice a bug creature's legs off. And action! Well, here's Sam Jackson, what are you going to do? There's only so much you can do with that.
Where is it? That would be my question.
Even if you give that for a sightline, it's well, how do you play that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just something about it at the end of the day, no matter how good an actor is, there's just something about... If acting is reacting, if there's nothing to physically react to, then it becomes hard. And that's why a lot of actors became really frustrated making these movies.
But I think especially also if
Whereas at least the last one had a lot more physical locations. Even if they were sets, they weren't digital sets. They were either a set built in Hollywood, but it was a set that you could touch, or they were out in Tunisia. Whereas in this movie and the next one, a lot of it is they'll just be walking, and they might design the floor, and that's it, and everything else is green, and you're walking through the Jedi Temple.
Yeah.
Well, if you're Ewan McGregor, and you as an actor, you're the actor's relationship, my character's relationship to the space. I'm walking the halls that I've lived in all my life, and whatever. He can't do any of that work because he's just in a big green room.
Yeah.
Even if he's told this is what it is. So anyway, that's my rant.
Yeah. I see that.
You were gonna say something, but I trampled on you.
I don't know. It's okay.
Are you okay? Are you? Attack of the Clones not giving you spirit?
No, just my head hurts a little.
Your head hurts.
Yeah.
Do you have water, listeners? This is your reminder. If you don't have water, grab some water. Do we need to pause?
No, it's okay.
Are you sure you're going to do it for our listeners?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, they don't want a crappy show.
I know.
Okay, well.
I was listening to you rant.
Am I yelling? Is that giving you a headache?
Yeah.
Did you eat?
Yeah.
When?
I don't know.
That's why your head hurts. Listeners, this is your reminder to eat dinner. Yeah, no wonder your head hurts. You did not prepare.
None of your business.
And I told you this morning when I left for work.
I know.
Make sure you
I ate. Yes, I ate lunch.
That lunch, it's 7:30.
Okay, can you mind your business?
Okay. In addition to introducing the digital camera, Attack of the Clones emphasized digital doubles as computer-generated models that doubled for actors in the same way that traditional stunt doubles did. Because of the acrobatics of the lightsaber fight between Count Dooku and Yoda, the then 78-year-old Christopher Lee relied on a stunt double to perform the most demanding scenes instead. Lee's face was superimposed onto the double's body in all the shots other than the close-ups, which he performed himself. Lucas often called the duel crucial to the animation department, as it had such potential to be humorous rather than dramatic. Because basically you have this nearly octogenarian man that you've cast as this like master swordsman. So they needed a way to like. So again, that's another advancing of the technology is that you.
It's pretty good. I didn't notice anything.
Yeah, they superimposed the face for the wide shots, and even though the technology isn't really great in 2002, like because it's far away enough and so much is happening, you're not noticing.
I guess so. Yeah. I would have never guessed.
Fooled you. Could have fooled me.
Sure did. Also, he did not look 78.
He looked metal. His hair was white as snow. It wasn't even gray.
Yeah, but he didn't look like geriatric old. Like
geriatric.
Like he was still moving.
He was still moving and grooving.
Yeah.
It was his stunt double moving and grooving. Every other scene, he's just like walking. Like, wow, he can walk. It also furthered the authenticity of computer-generated characters by introducing a new, completely CGI-created version of the character Yoda. Rob Coleman and John Knoll prepared 2 tests featuring a CGI animated Yoda using audio from The Empire Strikes Back. Yoda's appearance in Episode 5 also served as the reference point for the creation of the CGI Yoda. Lucas repeatedly stated to the animation department that the trick to the animation of the CGI Yoda was to make him look like the puppet from which he was based in order to maintain a flow of continuity. Frank Oz, who's the voice and puppeteer for Yoda in the original trilogy and The Phantom Menace, was consulted. His main piece of advice was that Yoda should look extremely old, sore, and frigid. Kind of like how people describe me. Although Lucas admitted that he was, quote, scared to death, end quote, about how they pull off the scene. Coleman later explained the process of making the digital Yoda like the puppet version by saying, quote, when Frank Oz would move the head, the ears would jiggle. If we hadn't put that in, it wouldn't look like Yoda, end quote. So again, that's kind of weird because when you're using a puppet, there are things about it that the puppeteer is not controlling. Like the physics of just like his ears wobbling or something.
Yeah.
So it's like, in order, like if they were designing this character from scratch, they wouldn't worry about that. But because this is a character people have seen many times in a puppet form, you have to like make sure certain things still happen. So like if Yoda's ears wiggle when he moves,
it's so weird.
Then they have to make sure the CGI version does that kind of.
Yeah, maybe it's just like me, but like when making something like this, you don't like think of those things, but then like when watching it, you can like pick it up. Like our brains are really good at that, so it's like, like, oh, why were his ears not moving? But then it's like, oh shit, I gotta like put the jiggle in.
Oftentimes things like that, you don't notice them when they do it, but you would, even if just subconsciously, you would notice if it wasn't there.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm saying a lot of things are like that. Like, I don't know, even with color, movement, and different things like that. It's like you can tell when something's wrong. Exactly.
We're really good at picking out things that are up. And I remember reading for Frozen, the animators would watch Idina Menzel sing in the studio when they're like doing Let It Go to see how she breathed. And then try to actually like mimic that in terms of like Elsa's like actual like torso and diaphragm movements. So it actually felt like sound was actually coming out of a human body.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like little things like that you don't think about, but if it wasn't there, you may not be like, her stomach isn't moving the way it should. You might just be like, something's off about it. Like, you wouldn't necessarily know.
Yeah, it's not so weird. Mm-hmm. It's like things are like so much more detailed than we pick them up as. But then, like, when those details are gone, then it's like we can tell.
You don't know what you got till it's gone.
You know?
Well, humans, like we said, loss aversion theory, that we feel losses more than we feel comparable gains.
Yeah.
So as humans, and it's probably an evolutionary reason, like that's probably valuable for survival, but
that's why I have like a problem with like painting and like color theory and stuff, is because like things aren't just one color. Even though they look like one color,
you're not used to thinking when you're painting. You have to think of the
know?
constituent parts, because when you see a painting, you just see it as it is.
Yeah.
You don't think about, okay, the painter must have used this exact amount of blue and then this amount of yellow, and they mix it in just a certain way. Like, you don't think of it in its constituent parts.
Yeah, or like different things. Like if you look like up close onto a painting or something, and it's like, oh, I wouldn't expect them to use green on someone's face, but like this little part looks green, and it like,
but it doesn't look green when you're looking at its totality, because in the context of the piece, it's just adding probably to the shading.
That's so weird.
Right?
So weird.
Well, that's the whole basis. Now we're really off topic. That's the whole basis of the dress color scandal.
Oh yes.
Because basically it's like, is it what was it, blue and black or white and gold or gray and gold? The issue is that it's both. That if you were to like take the JPEG and do like the hex, like the little like dipper or the dropper,
eyedropper,
it would say, I forget which one it was, but it would say that it was the one of them, like the gray and gold or the blue and black.
It's the...
But in real life it was the other color. It was just that the lighting made it look different. But in a JPEG, lighting, like if you take a darkly lit picture of this really light tan table, and then you were to then take that JPEG, and use the dropper, it will say that it's a different color than the table, because ultimately, literally, the picture is just a series of pixels, and the pixels have certain color values. It's not accounting for a physical object in space that has a certain amount of light hitting it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So ultimately, the thing with the dress is that
it's so weird.
The colors, it just looks like in a vacuum, it looks a certain color scheme, but it's really just because of the lighting.
Yeah, because
you know what I mean?
This one, like...
Because it's backlit, because it's really gray and gold, but in the picture it looks...
No, it's not.
Yes, that's the official thing, is that it's a gray and gold dress.
No, it's not. That is blue and black.
But that's because of the lighting. Look at everything behind it.
Yeah.
And now put the color context clues in.
Yeah, I do not see any gold.
I know, because your brain is looking at it in one, because basically our brains try to fill in the clues, fill in the missing pieces.
But that's so weird, because those aren't even like comparable, like
it's because
things.
Of the lighting.
It's like,
wait.
So opposite.
The dress is black and blue.
Yeah, I know.
But the lighting makes it look gold.
Yeah.
But that's my point, is that the fact that you could see, someone could see it as one thing, another person could see it as another thing.
Well, if you look at the original picture, you can obviously tell. But if there's one that's like the saturation is like, you see, and then it makes it look more.
Yeah.
But I feel like you could still tell.
Anyway, art is really cool, and it's more than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
Oh, so we're talking about the movie. You can't muster anything to say, but then we talk about the blue and gold dress. You're like, yeah, you're like Boss Nass over there. Anyway, can I talk about you're a marketing guru.
Yes, of course.
Do you want to hear just a little smidge about the marketing?
Oh, sure. Just one bullet.
Just one single bullet for good measure. In November 2001, 3 teaser trailers for Attack of the Clones were released, which were shown on the internet, as well as the DVD-ROM selection of the Phantom Menace DVD release, which implies that the Phantom Menace DVD didn't come out for 2.5 years?
That's weird.
Well, actually, to be fair, I think DVD was still
ROM?
coming. DVD, it's just the long form of DVD.
Is it? Or is it?
Yes.
Are you sure?
ROM just means read-only memory.
Oh, then maybe there were 2...
No, DVD-ROM is just a DVD. It's just
maybe there are 2 releases?
No.
Maybe it only came out in VHS.
Well, I was going to say, it probably only came out in VHS.
And then it...
Because DVD was still kind of semi-new in the early 2000s.
Yeah, okay. Maybe,
so that's probably why. I remember seeing one of the teaser trailers years later. It was actually kind of cool. It was like really moody and used like the Darth Vader breathing as like accenting shots. It would like fade up and to black. It'd be like... With like no music. It was like really eerie. It was like actually... So I could see people being kind of excited going into it.
Who is Cooper?
What?
It sounded like you were saying Cooper.
This is the sound of me face palming. Okay. In terms of the release, the film premiered as part of the inaugural Tribeca Film Festival.
Oh.
At the BMCC Performing Arts Center, 199 Chambers Street in New York City. I don't know why.
Why is that on?
On a Sunday, May 12th set of screenings benefiting the Children's Aid Society. Not the Children's AIDS Society.
The children have AIDS?
No, Children's Aid Society, a charity supported by George.
Children.
We are aiding children.
We're aiding children, not...
Attack of the Clones was then screened out of competition at the 2002 Cannes Film Festival.
Oh.
Well, why was it being shown at film festivals? Of all the Star Wars movies, this does not deserve to be in a film festival. Before getting a worldwide theatrical release on May 16th, 2002. The film was also later released in IMAX theaters. The film had not been filmed for IMAX, but was quote-unquote up-converted with the digital remastering process. But because of the technical limitations of the IMAX projector at the time, an edited 120-minute version of the film was presented. So I guess films couldn't be longer than 120 minutes. So they had to cut out, I think, like 12 minutes or something. Which, maybe that would make it a better movie.
And again, they once again missed the great opportunity to so closely to release the movie on May 4th.
Well, the thing is
May
that
the
Star Wars
4th
has
be
always
with
been a mid to late May property.
May
Until
the
sequels.
4th be with you.
I think. Well, here's the thing: is don't
Not
forget.
May the 16th be with you.
Well, dude, the summer movie season. Like, if you do it too early, it's not the summer movie season. Like, it wanted to be the big kickoff.
Less than 2 weeks.
Yes.
Okay.
Because the reason, remember we talked about with the first one, they were gonna do it in like June or July, but he wanted to do it right before school ended,
Yes.
so it could spread with the kids.
Yes.
But if you do it too early, it'll dissipate. It needs to be everything everyone's talking about on the schoolyard, and then a week later you're out of school, and now you can go see it a million times. Whereas if you do it too early, the interest might fade by the time the kids are out of school.
How late are these kids in school?
Nowadays they're into like mid-June.
Oh my god.
Anyway, so what did we think of this movie?
Ooh.
You did not.
I don't even know what to say. It's just weird.
Well, let's start with.
I mean, there's good parts, and I like most of it. But then, when you really watch it and you listen, it's just strange. And then also, I have some questions.
Like what?
But also, those don't really matter. So, then I just go back to the strangeness. Oh,
Well, like what? What questions do you have?
Oh, nothing.
Uh,
Just about, like, she's not saying anything. She's not like, hey, why are you being weird? Or like...
Yeah, that's the thing, because again, it's like, diegetically, he's not meant to be as weird as he's coming off non-diegetically. Do you see what I'm saying?
Or like she's not even like saying like oh, you still have like a schoolgirl crush on me, or acknowledging it at all. It's not really acknowledging it at all, except a little smirk here and there.
Yeah, it's just like.
And then they kiss all of a sudden.
Yeah,
And then
like
they're married all of a sudden.
There's a lot of things that happen all of a sudden. You know, it's just weird. Like Lucas, I guess, is trying to impart a sense of Anakin's like moral ambiguity, but I don't really see any ambiguity. I think he's just evil. Like he's like there's no ambiguity. Like he doesn't do any good things.
Ambiguity of what? He's just babysitting.
Like he's trying to set up the idea that this guy could become the most evil guy in the galaxy.
Because he doesn't listen?
And he murders a whole village of...
Okay, well, that comes later.
Like, think about what...
But also, that's not very acknowledged.
Does Anakin do anything particularly heroic in this movie that is not self-interested in some way?
No, I don't think
He's trying to protect Padme because he wants to fuck her.
I know, but, like, also,
And
they don't really acknowledge the...
The genocide?
the genocide?
It's just kind of like a thing like, oh, that's kind of sad that you did that, and then they kind of move on very quickly.
And then no one else knows either. It's just like, he just told Padme.
Well, in the next one, Palpatine does acknowledge, he's like, remember what you told me about your mother and the Sand people?
Yes.
So presumably he tells Palpatine at some point.
Okay, but as for now, he's just
he just kind of tells.
He's just like, hey, I just went and killed a bunch of people. And also...
Well, surely it was just the men, right? Surely it was just the men.
And the women and the kids, too. Why did he...
He's like, and not just the men. It was almost like he was looking into the eyes, like, just so you know, it's not
Why?
just the soldiers who could maybe be morally argued that they deserve to die, but I also murdered the women and children, so I'm evil. Don't get confused. And then they literally play the Darth Vader theme song.
Couldn't
the Imperial March underneath it.
They couldn't just, like, say he murdered them. He had to be specific. Was that the moral ambiguity?
Again,
The
it's not really
specificity?
ambiguity.
Was that
It's
the
just moral depravity. You know what I mean? Like,
And Ben or no one else,
Yeah.
they don't ask where he's been.
he's also...
Or, well, they know where he's been, I guess, but they don't ask, hey, how'd you get Shmi back? Or, well, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
you
Oh, also I have to make a correction. I slandered the Shmi actress. She was in fact an actress. Now, how much English did she know is still up for debate.
Okay.
But when I fuck up, I like to own it. And I
You
fucked
said she
up.
was a model?
I said she was just like a model or something. But again, I don't think she was a super famous Swedish actress.
I don't care.
Again, I think George
Her
Lucas kind of just
profession
went.
was.
I like the vibes.
Yeah, I don't care what her profession was. It was simply the delivery.
Oh, talk about one of the best deaths in any movie. And by best, I mean one of the worst. She just literally just flops over like a fish. She's like, oh, poor. And he does like the little thing where he closes your eyes, really just to make it easier for the actors so they don't have to keep their eyes open.
It's like, make sure you don't breathe too much. Little breaths.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of actually not speaking of anything, but we talked about Luke. People complaining about Luke being whiny in the first movie.
Yeah.
Anakin is so fucking whiny in this movie. And not even whiny, he's just a complainer.
I guess.
He's always just like, oh, but he's like acting like a 12-year-old, but he's like a grown-ass man. He's like 6 feet tall, and he's like, oh, Obi-Wan just doesn't understand. And that scene where Padme is like packing,
Yeah.
and he's complaining, and she's just like, bro, I didn't ask. Like, why are you, like...
She's like, why are you telling me this?
He's like, oh, and then it gets all up close and personal.
I was like, oh, well.
And she's like, stop looking at me like that. And he's like what? And she's like, that. And then she walks away, and he like looks at her devilishly. It's like, bro, are you gonna like, what are you gonna do on this trip?
Stop being so coy and weird.
Though I will say Padme gets to be way cooler in this movie.
Yes.
I don't know if it's because George allows her, Natalie Portman, to actually like act a little.
Yeah.
So I will say she's not a wooden box like she was in the last movie.
No, she's good and she's tough and cool.
And also it helps that she, you know,
Gemma.
she's a bad Mamma Gemma. You know, it also should go. It should also be mentioned that, you know, Portman's just older now. So also it's just like, you know.
But she's been acting since she was like 9.
I'm just saying, like, the difference between a 17-year-old, 20-year-old in terms of talent is different than like a 23 and 26-year-old. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I suppose.
Like, so I'm saying she also is probably getting better, even better. I should
Yeah.
say, not that she was bad before, she's even better.
Yeah.
And she just gets, like, Lucas gives her more opportunities to be cool. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, she did get to storm the palace in the last one, but it was one of 4 climaxes happening,
But
and she was also like this little girl just running through the halls. So like, there's only so much. Whereas this one, she actually gets to kind of be a badass, especially in like the climax.
I don't really see that as a storm. It just seems more like a group of people.
They were just going into the palace.
Yeah, just a group of people hiding behind walls until someone walked by, and then they kept running again. Okay. But yeah, she was cool in this movie. I like when they're in the Coliseum.
She gets sliced.
And she
on the back.
Before that.
So basically, she gets like a midriff, like almost like a
Well, I wasn't talking about that.
2-piece. Oh, it was very sexy. Very, very sexy.
Okay. Anyways.
Oh, sorry.
They were all chained up, and Anakin's like, "What are we gonna do?" And Obi was like, "Well, it looks like she's got it handled." And she was like using her bobby pin to you know, pick the lock of the chains and stuff, and then she was climbing up the pole and stuff.
Whoa. Hold on. You completely whitewashed a moment of stellar comedy. When Anakin is like, what about Padme? And Obi-Wan says, she seems to be on top of things. Cut, she's on top of the pillar.
Oh.
So it's like moments like that where it's like the dialogue is snappier, but it doesn't make it good. It's almost like it like deserves like a sitcom laugh track like level.
That is something that I do want to point out because like we've always talked about, and people always say like, oh, the like, oh, hold on, sorry.
Wow, you must be really
how
invested
the prequels are like so dead and just like blah, and like there's no personality or whatever, but they're actually kind of funny and like they're like quippy. So I don't know how people say there's no personality, but
well, how often is it trying to be funny is the question.
they say little snitty things all the time.
The third one has the most personality, I think.
Yeah, I mean it's all the same thing, it's all the same person. It's not different like you would say a Han and a Luke saying a funny thing, right? But it's still there, you know.
Ultimately, a movie is more than its script. So even if you have snappy dialogue, but you have wooden performances and dull cinematography and editing, it doesn't matter how snappy your dialogue is. It's gonna feel boring. Right, that's the thing. Is that the vibes are off. George Lucas is all about vibes. The vibe. That's the issue. Is that it's not that the scripts are convoluted, the dialogue, but it fails the vibe check. That's the issue. Is that it doesn't. The vibes are off. Do you know what I mean? Like it just bore. It just feels boring. Doesn't matter if there's a lot of shit happening. It feels boring. It feels sluggish, like the pacing of it.
I suppose.
Oh, okay. Well, why do you disagree?
I suppose.
Instead of just sitting there going,
"Oh,
I didn't eat dinner, and I disagree." Well, then why do you think it's not sluggish?
I was just listening to what?
I said it was sluggish.
I know.
I don't know about that.
I said I guess someone could say that,
but not you.
I mean, yes, I feel like at times. But for the most part...
Maybe you started to come back around to maybe this is my favorite one.
No, but like, I don't know. I don't know. I guess it just sounds a lot worse coming out of your mouth than it looks.
You're like, I agree with you. I hate hearing it come out of your mouth.
It just sounds so much worse when you say it. Like, I agree with everything you're saying, but it's just like, you're like dunking on it.
This movie deserves to be dunked on. Because I feel like, again, the bar was so low from the last one. And George Lucas didn't even clear the low bar. Like, I'm a spoiler right now. This is objectively worse than the last one. Like I said, there are areas that it improves.
I guess so.
But the areas where it's worse are just so much worse that it just becomes a big downgrade.
Why do you say that?
Did you watch the movie?
I know, but I feel like
you're like trying to be nice to a movie. It's a movie.
When I try to
there's no feelings.
No, when I try to compare it, then I'm like, oh shit. Well, this one has a lot more world building and all this stuff. So I feel like I'm like trying to compare them, but apparently not comparing the proper things to see what you're seeing. So that's why I'm asking.
Well, let's look at that example you said, like with the world building. I would argue that this movie does more world building, but does it worse.
How? Worse?
Because it introduces more complications and does a poor job of exploring them and explaining them.
Oh yes.
The last movie also had this issue, but it was a smaller problem.
Yes.
Whereas this is even more world building. Like we talked about one of the things I wish the original trilogy had was like more of an understanding of like the rest of the galaxy. This one tries to explore like this whole idea of like almost like the civil war that's about to break out in the galaxy. But he explores it and explains it even less and worse. So I would say with the world building, just because there's more of it doesn't make it better. It's almost worse for it.
Something that I also noticed this time around, just kind of random, but it seemed like Coruscant seemed very like Tokyo, like what is it called?
Oh, I don't know.
You know, the body show.
Oh, I don't. What's the body show?
Where they change bodies?
The body show. I have no idea what
With
you're
the
talking about.
guy.
With the guy. The guy.
Oh my god, you know what I'm
I
talking about.
have no idea. Who are you to tell me what I know? The show with the body.
Oh my god.
But there's been 100. You don't need to focus on that one example. There's been it's very Blade Runner inspired.
Sure.
Well, okay, you know what? Yeah.
I don't
Take
know.
5 minutes and find this one show so you can tell us the name of the show and then we'll move on very quickly.
You know the name of the show.
I do. Why? Who are you to tell me what I know?
Okay, what's...
I do like how we get to see more of Coruscant, because before it was all just like 1,000 feet up in the air.
Yes.
There's like a bunch of inside buildings and on landing platforms. Whereas this, we get to actually see like as a kid before watching this, I thought like it was almost like if you fell in, it'd be like a video game, like you just die.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing down there. It's almost like lava.
That's why also the Senate room is scary too.
What if you trip and go, oh, ow, oh, 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 ow, oh, ow.
What if you just accidentally drop out of your pod? Where is the ground?
There is a ground.
Is
There is a bottom. Because we see it in the next one. His Palpatine's little office. There's like a platform that rises up into the Senate.
Yeah.
From below.
I think I remember that. But yeah, well, I also felt the same way about Coruscant too, because like when, like I was so floored when they were like hopping in the air. I was like, if you drop, like what?
He's a superpower. He's a super hero. He doesn't care.
The bottom, it's just the floor. It's just the street, and it's so far away. What's going on here? But apparently,
he used the Force to land on another ship.
Yeah, very good at timing. So
very, very good at timing.
Also, did you notice that they were going in like lines, right? So even in space,
there's like lanes. Yeah.
Even in space, there are traffic laws.
Yes, you need lanes. It's not even laws. It's just like if otherwise we'll all just crash into each other all the time.
Well, usually in space things, you just see them all over the place.
Well, in a city like this, you need lanes.
This is true. There needs to be some order.
There needs to be some order, just like Anakin says. I love the part where he starts advocating for fascism. like no foreplay, just full on. He's just like.
It's like Annie. That's sound good.
he's like, my issue with politics is that they should sit down and figure out solutions. And she's like, that's what politics is. And she's like, well, not everyone always agrees. Like, well, then they should be made to agree. And then, And then she's like, well, who's gonna make them? He's like, I don't know. She's like, you? Is like, well, if it works. And then she's just kind of like. And then he laughs. It's like, haha. It's like, no, I think he means it. Right? And it kind of speaks to what we were saying before in the last movie. I don't think this was intentional. But it's like, if we're going to try to project onto these movies and make them any better than they could be. Mm-hmm. It speaks to this idea of Anakin, like, thinking about what is right or what he thinks is right first. And then, like, okay, what are the rules or, like, the procedures second?
Yeah.
So it's like, if a dictatorship will allow for justice, then sure. Like to him, democracy is not a value in of itself. Mm-hmm. It's just something that serves justice. So if democracy doesn't work, then we should try dictatorship, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. I guess because he's seen, right, like Tatooine, and how that's just kind of like.
The bureaucracy has forgotten people like him.
But then also, if you go into like Naboo and like Padme's world, like that's also pretty fucked up. So it's like, okay, well, whether there's a bureaucracy or not, no one is agreeing on anything. So in order to clean up society and whatnot, make things run properly, then, Mm-hmm. We need a guy.
We need a guy. We need a guy to do the thing.
Without his pining, I feel like he might be an incel. He's giving.
He's 100% an incel.
He's giving incel vibes, but then also is like really pining after Padme. Like
he's more of a vol cell. He's voluntarily celibate.
He's like fascism, but also.
No, Anakin Skywalker is very much the template of like. The 2010s incel, like the modern alt-right kind of thing. 100%. There's a reason why Star Wars fans like Anakin because a lot of Star Wars fans are incels. Sorry!
What?
I said it.
I just thought it was because he's hot.
No, I don't think male Star Wars fans who are straight and conservative
Oh,
give a shit that he's hot.
Well, they just want to be cool.
No, they like that he's a dictator.
That he's a fascist.
Yes!
Well, if I get shit done. No, just kidding.
Well, if it were.
What did you say? Like, oh, when Mussolini was in power, like the
trains ran on time.
The trains ran on time.
That's not. I didn't come up with it. That's like that is like the allure of fascism summed up.
Like,
is like.
I guess you're right.
At least like things work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like as opposed to bureaucracy, where it's like everyone has to argue about like, will we fill in the pothole on 36th and Avenue B? Like, you know, so that's like the idea, right? But yeah, no, the movie, going back to like the world building, it just, again, it's like the last one, there are interesting political ideas, but they're just poorly executed, right? So there's this debate about like whether or not the Republic should build an army to essentially fight this what's about to become a civil war. Right? You seem confused. What? Do I need to go get you a cracker?
I don't know who's fighting who.
Well, that's not on you. That the movie is just not very clear.
Because the Jedi, supposedly Jedi, even though he was a Sith, they ordered this, right, supposedly for the Jedi, which is weird because why would a order of monks need an army? But okay.
An army! But
then,
I think
right,
it's for the Republic, not for themselves. So here's the canonical answer. We watched the video after we watched the movie. I looked up.
It was for the Republic,
Cypher
but who's the Republic fighting? Just
no, but
people who don't agree
canonically, I'm about to learn you.
All right.
Though we watched the same video I did, so I don't know why you're confused. So Cypher was a Jedi.
Yes.
Who became disillusioned.
Yes.
And was like, at some point, the Republic is going to need an army.
For what?
He could see some kind of civil war where the Republic would come undone.
Okay.
So he goes out and commissions an army.
Yeah.
Though, is he paying for it himself? Ultimately, I guess somehow Count Dooku finds out about it and manipulates Cypher and then kills Cypher
Yes.
and then basically takes over managing the project.
Yes.
So there's your answer.
Okay, but no, not necessarily because the aliens aren't like put off when they think that Obi is part of the whole situation.
Because they just assume the Jedi. They just assume no cell phones in the Star Wars universe.
Be Jedi, right? Unless Dooku is still like pretending to be a Jedi, which it doesn't seem like he
canonically in the expanded stuff with the Clone Wars, like the Kaminoans are in on it. Like they put in the chips, right? Like the Kaminoans are in on it.
Well, yeah, they put in the chip because that's part of the order and stuff.
No, but the chips, like they know what the chips, like they know what it's all for. At least in the expanded material, the Kaminoans know exactly what's going on. The answer is that this is all stupid as fuck, and this is so convoluted.
Who is the Republic fighting?
It was the idea that we need an army. Well, it's like the United States. Who are we fighting?
I don't know.
But we have all this money for the military. It's the same idea. It's the idea that we need it in case we fight somebody.
But then it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly.
Because then we got all these troops, and then people are like, well, at first...
We may as well use them.
Well, I thought it was kind of interesting because the Jedi are using them, right, in the Colosseum. And we're like, oh, but these are stormtroopers. That's weird. How did they get to the Sith side? Well, guess who's a Jedi right now? Annie. And who turns
Because
Sith.
they never technically switch sides. It's just that the Republic becomes the Empire.
What I'm saying, like, the taking over ownership of the clones. Like, I guess the Jedi just kind of drop it at some point.
The Jedi do not control the clones. They are an army for the Republic.
They use them in that battle.
Basically, the Jedis become generals in an army for the Republic, but they do not control the clone army.
No, I know, but they were using them.
Yes. As surrogates for the Republic.
Okay. But theoretically, right now, for the good guys. But then later, for the bad guys.
I know, but my point is I don't think the clones at any point We're with the good guys, now we're going to the bad guys. They just stayed where they were. Their boss just changed the name.
I know. I'm saying
So what are
the
you trying to
bosses
say?
changed. They didn't change. They're clones.
Yes,
We're not to people yet.
Well, canonically, eventually they phase out the clones, so the stormtroopers just become. I'm just telling you.
That they become people. I know, Finn.
No, that's even later.
Okay, well, great. Anyways, so they use them, and then somehow they lose them.
But that's what I'm saying. They don't have them to lose them. They're not theirs. That's what I'm trying to say. They don't have them.
The opportunity to use them.
Because the Jedi are part of the army, and then they're labeled enemies of the state, and the clones kill them all. Spoiler alert!
Okay, well, there you go.
That's how they lose them, because they're declared enemies of the state.
I just thought it was interesting seeing stormtroopers be on the good side. That's all.
Well, I think that's what George Lucas was banking on. And I imagine no one envisioned the Clone Wars having anything to do with the origin of stormtroopers. Mm-hmm. So, I guess that's kind of a subversion.
Because they were the little skinny guys.
What?
The little skinny guys. They're funny.
What are you talking about? I'm saying like in like the 70s and 80s, I don't think anyone was like, the Clone Wars must have something to do with the origin.
I know.
Who are the skinny guys?
The little skinny guys is what they use before the stormtroopers.
Oh, the droids?
Yeah.
You know the word droid. Why are you saying the little skinny guys?
Because all the robots are droids.
But you could say
droid.
you could say the battle droids.
Oh. Well, they don't
The
always
skinny guys. I was like, you know who else is skinny? The Geonosian bug creatures.
No,
They're skinny.
sometimes they're walking down the hallway. They're not always in battle. They're the silly little guys.
No, but they're called battle droids.
I didn't know that, okay? The battle droids.
All right,
They're
now you're getting
silly.
angry. Now you're getting angry.
They're silly, and now they've replaced them, which I was thinking about this during the
Technically,
movie.
they didn't replace them because the Republic didn't use the droids.
They used them, they just phased them out because they're not used in the other ones, or at least not as much.
Yeah, but I'm saying the Republic never used the droids, and neither did the Empire.
Yes, they did. What do you?
When? That wasn't the Republic fighting. Those were the separatist states. That was like it's like the South in the Civil War. They seceded. It's the evil guys using the droids.
Okay. Anyways,
what is this all for? Like, what is your point?
I was just gonna talk about the mechanics of the different droids, but never mind. Yeah. Go ahead.
No. Please explain. I'm just trying to make sure you understand the situation.
All I know is that they work for the bad guys.
Who are not the Republic is my point.
Okay. They intermingle sometimes.
They don't intermingle. What does that mean?
Yes, because Dooku is not part of the Empire, but
Exactly.
Palpatine is, and then he's working with Palpatine, and then Palpatine turns the Empire into the not Empire, the whatever.
This whole plan is very stupid.
Anyways, I just wanted to talk about the different robots.
Talk about the different robots.
No. I'm discouraged.
You should not be discouraged because I was trying to make sure you understood the context because you were saying things that were just not true. If that's discouraging, then I'm sorry.
Anyways, well...
Which is your favorite droid? Do you like the skinny guys or the big guys that have no necks?
Oh, then there's those guys.
The super battle droids.
I wasn't even thinking about those guys. Oh my gosh, then there's the Rolly guys. Oh my goodness.
The destroyers?
I don't know. The Rolly guys. So if we take the battle droids and we take the stormtroopers, in terms of the upgrades and whatnot, so it seems the droids seem better because they're thinner, right? So there's less surface area for the enemy to hit, right? But also,
if they turn a certain way, they disappear.
But also at the same time, there's a compression of mechanics, and therefore it's like one hit and you're done, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas the stormtroopers, there's more surface area to be hit. However, it's more spread out, so it takes more hits to bring it down. So it's kind of like an interesting move, you know. But then the super droids, I don't know. Those ones are just tin cans. Those are just fucked. You just can't with those ones. And
you just can't. I just can't.
With the rollies, those ones are difficult because they have their own shields. So then they can be shooting and having the shields. But really what I wanted to discuss was the different surface areas of the different droids. And how...
what I really wanted to talk
and how that could potentially affect performance in battle.
Talking about like the texture?
No, I'm talking about how the skinny guys are skinny, so that it's harder to shoot. Mm-hmm. It's like a smaller target.
Yes.
But also, if you hit that target, you take it out.
It's
right?
not very. It doesn't have a lot of defense.
Whereas you can be a worse shooter with the stormtroopers, but also even if you're a great shot, you might take at least 2 shots, right? If you take it to the head, right?
Yeah.
So I was just thinking about that when the war came about, or when that battle started.
The clone troopers are pretty cool.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that battle. And I'm thinking about that battle. I'm thinking about when Mace, he takes off his cloak.
Oh, he gets it on fire and kind of like flips it around his head.
Effortlessly, he just takes it off and he's like, I don't need that.
I don't need that robe anymore. I'm in battle.
Also, you know what I think about?
What do you think? What do you think about?
I don't know what he's called. Don't ask me. Don't say it in a question form. But the blue alien man with the predator-like dreads. I am always concerned that he is gonna chop one of his little tentacles off. Because they're flowing in the wind. The lightsaber's flowing in the wind. It's just not a good situation.
The green guy, not blue.
Is he blue? He's kind of
Kit Fisto.
Turquoise, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's just green.
Okay.
I don't think there's any hint of blue, personally.
I'm remembering a turquoise type color.
Did a contact fall out? maybe.
I don't know. I don't remember exactly.
If we're talking about the same guy, he's pretty reptilian, greeny.
Yes. And he's got like smaller versions of like Ahsoka's little.
Yes.
Yes. I'm very concerned about that. I was concerned about it during the whole battle.
Well,
I couldn't really focus. I thought someone needs to get this man a ponytail holder because he's gonna chop one of his dreads off.
When we watch the next one, I don't want you worrying about it. So I'll tell you from this moment until his death, he never loses his
No, I figure, but the tentacles.
You're like, I'm on the edge of my seat.
The tentacles are in danger.
Oh my gosh! You know what creature I love so much in this movie?
What?
Dexter fucking Jetster. The Star Wars fry cook
guy, yeah.
At the diner. In the diner with like a 50s style waitress on roller skates and all.
This is my first time noticing he has a mustache.
He has a mustache. He's very menacing for some reason. I don't know if he's meant to be. When he's like, how good your manners are. How deep your pocketbook is. And then the music gets kind of creepy. He goes,
where is he getting his entails?
Yeah, that's another thing is like, I'm sure there's a book that explains, how Obi-Wan even met this guy.
He's probably like an old war vet or something. He's like...
I guess so, because they know each other pretty well. He's like, Obi-Wan!
Yeah, well, and he's trusting him for, like, covert information that's been, erased from
Obi-Wan's not being very discreet. He's just like, I found this piece. Here's this piece of evidence. I brought it with me to your restaurant. Do you think you could take a look?
Okay, look at that.
It's like, look, well, that's pretty accurate to fry cooks. I feel like a lot of them have a dubious past. So
they,
it's like,
they do know lots
so it's
of
like,
stuff.
how does Dexter Jetster know all this? Maybe he himself was once a bounty hunter of some kind, and then he's like, I gave it up.
Oh, maybe
to start my own restaurant.
Maybe, because I feel like to make a really good burger, you have to have a lot of knowledge, So it's like those guys. They got
to make a good burger, you need a lot of knowledge.
And they put some would say love, others would say knowledge, some would say, I don't know, other things. And then they make the greatest burger. And there was something else I was going to say, but I forgot. So... Oh, did you want to talk about your distaste for the Padawan training classes? Methods?
I think they're cute. It just speaks to, again, this thing of like, in the first movie, Luke trains that way just because that's just like the shit they have on hand. Like with like the supposedly. Well, again, it's one of those things where it's not ever explicitly said. So Lucas is like, that's how they all train. And it's like, I guess it doesn't contradict anything, but it just kind of goes against the implication.
At least at one point in time, that's not the entirety of their training.
No, but the fact it's even a thing.
It's just a little bit.
I'm just saying it's very obviously just because they did that in A New Hope.
Well, yes, of course.
But that doesn't make it feel organic. Because Han Solo just happened to have all of the things required for a Jedi to practice in like the back room in a box.
Oh no, he collects things. He's like a treasure hunter.
He's a treasure hunter.
I don't know.
Smuggler, perhaps.
I just feel like he just like collects little things sometimes.
Yeah, that's one thing we know about Han Solo. He likes to collect little things. It's a classic character trait that he has. Everyone knows.
I mean, they're not like little things, like little trinkets, like little like ceramic dolls or whatever, but they're like little like bits of hardware, right? Because then you can like trade that and whatnot, right? So if he's got like a thing with Jabba or the bug guy, Watto.
Watto.
Oh, Watto.
Watto. That's what I do when I stub my toe.
What toe? Anyways, then they can use that, you know, kind of trade and barter. He's a bartering guy.
He is a bartering guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
What else? I just have a bunch of random notes. I'm trying to. Whenever we do this, I try to do segues, but today you're all over the place. It's really hard to segue into different points here. So
just chat.
Just chat. Well, I'm gonna chat. So again, talking about this idea of like missed opportunities in terms of the ideas, right? Like, I think a big missed opportunity of this trilogy. People always complain about how Darth Maul was killed off too soon, which is true. But at least he kind of gets
too soon. You'd want more?
Yeah, you thought he was killed off too late?
No,
he's such a cool character.
No,
it would be cool if he was in other movies. What do you mean? Why are you like, what? Too soon?
What? I just mean you would want him to be an extended character.
I feel like you're not listening
movies?
to me, and you just have like stock responses. So no matter what I said, you were gonna be like, what?
No.
I would want him to be like a Darth Vader type who like gets developed throughout the trilogy.
He only has 2 lines.
Because that's how he was. You're acting like that's an immutable fact of nature. It was designed that way. It could have been written another way.
Oh my goodness.
With you. But people always complain about that. But I feel like Count Dooku is a big missed opportunity. Because they set up this interesting idea of him being this former Jedi who didn't turn evil. Well, he did turn evil. But as far as anyone knows, he just basically like left the Jedi Order.
Yeah, it's very unclear.
Almost like resigned.
Yeah.
Like they make this point of like he's a political idealist. He's not a murderer. Mm-hmm. So it's like, but like, what are his politics, right? Like this idea, like he's supporting like these seceding systems, but like
he's supporting Palpatine.
Yeah, but I'm saying, what's the on the face answer? Like within the world, the characters don't know anything about Darth Sidious. So I'm saying
he's
like,
just gone into politics.
But I'm saying I don't really understand his politics.
That's the thing. He doesn't really have it.
But they make a whole point that he's a political idealist. You think a political idealist, we would have a clear idea of what his politics are.
What more politics do you need?
Wait, are you just saying whatever I say? No, you're just saying the opposite?
No,
you're not saying anything.
I'm confused as to like what you're trying to say.
The movie doesn't explore his political ideology in any meaningful or interesting way. You know?
Okay.
And it reinforces this thing about all of the prequel films. And it happened in the last one too, is that the movie will tell us things about characters, but rarely show that in action. Like it'll say, like a character will say, "Oh, he's a very wise man," but we never really see his wisdom. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about someone in particular. I'm just saying in general.
Is there a way to show wisdom?
Huh?
Is there a way to visually show wisdom?
There's a way through their actions. Yes.
I guess it'd have to be over some time.
We could just tell by the way they talk, or the advice they give, or the actions they take. Yeah, you can absolutely show wisdom. When you say film's a visual medium, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be like something like, if you're deaf, It's just blind. You're just seeing the visuals.
No,
I'm saying.
I was just wondering.
No, I'm saying like through the character's actions.
I know. I'm just. I don't know. I guess I was just wondering because it's easy to portray sadness. However, wisdom is a bit more complex.
I'm saying the characters will just describe characters. We won't actually like see. Like if that character didn't say a character was a certain way,
I know.
we wouldn't know that.
I know.
That's a problem.
I know. I'm asking how.
I would have to sit down and write. I guess you could show wisdom by
if a
character could either do one thing or the other, and by doing one of the things, that's more wise. That it's wiser to do that thing, and that's how you could show that they're wise because they chose the wise path and not the dumb path. Like a character decision, because that's ultimately what stories are: just characters making decisions, and then characters reacting to other people's decisions by making their own decisions. And it's basically, you do enough of that and then you have a movie. Right?
Yeah.
Speaking of actions, I'm not the first person to make this joke. But a big thing that people laugh about with this movie is the convoluted assassination plan. When you have like the insects and stuff. So
Yes.
so here's the train of thought here. So the Emperor wants Padme dead. But the Emperor doesn't want to do it. So he delegates it to Dooku, who doesn't want to do it. So he delegates it to Jango Fett, who doesn't want to do it. So he delegates it to the other woman bounty hunter, who then sends a droid, because she's not going to go do it. And the droid then releases the insects. So you have like a 6-degree separation.
So weird. Why does he want?
It's like just so convoluted. Like, why can't narratively, like, it's just Django? Like, it's like all these extra levels of separation.
Well, why does he even want her dead? Because he could just block her vote. Like, she's not even there to say anything anyway. She sends Jar Jar in her place. So it's like.
Again, I think the idea is that it's basically like a quid pro quo, where it's like if the Trade Federation supplies their battle droids. Mm-hmm. They're like, in return, will assassinate Padme Amidala because, like, you hate her.
Oh, okay.
I guess. I think. Again, the fact that I've seen this movie a million times over 2 decades, and I'm still not quite sure what the motivations of really any of the characters, I think that's a problem. I could be maybe being dramatic, but I feel like that's a problem. Also, why... I said this when we were watching it. When the insects try to eat Padme, and they come in... Why is Obi-Wan the one to jump out the window? Right? This really bothers me.
Also, Anakin was a very good shot because those were 2 little bugs.
Oh, he was able to slice them without like slicing her at all.
And she
right? But you just asked, how do you show wisdom? Well, you want to know how you show not wisdom? A character jumping out of a window. Like, that's something
being
that...
selfless.
That's dumb.
Being selfless?
No, but that's something Anakin should do, no?
I know,
Narratively, like, wouldn't that be a great way to show Anakin, like, quick to act, like, shoot first, ask questions later?
Yes,
like, he's not going to think about how am I going to, like, what do I do next?
I never thought about... Yes, but then when you were explaining your idea, then, yes, it made sense. I think that would be good because then it shows, like, how rash he is.
Yeah. But that's an example of how you reveal characters' true nature through their actions. Mm-hmm. Right? So how do you show someone's wise? Well, maybe, everyone's trying to push a character to do one thing, but they're like, I'm wise and I know I need to do this other thing. But again, there's this idea of the Jedi being peace. Like Mace Windu says, we're keepers of the peace, we're not soldiers. So this was answering our question from the last movie.
Who's peace?
Well, yes, but we were talking about, like, what is the nature of the Jedi in relation to the Republic?
Yes.
And they are, up until this moment, they're not soldiers. They end up becoming the generals of this army. So, like, by the time you get to the next one, he's, like when Grievous meets with them, he's, like, General Kenobi.
Yes.
Like, they end up becoming soldiers.
Yeah.
Militaristic, in a sense, right? Where, like, the Jedi Council is not just to, like, vibe. They're, like, planning invasions and battles and strategies and stuff. And
Every time they were sitting, you're like, this is how dudes hang out.
This is just how... Oh, yeah, the scenes... No, the scenes with like, when they have, the little bean bags and the Venetian blinds. I was like, Viviana, you're not a guy, so you don't know. This is how guys vibe. This is how we just hang out. We just sit and chill. And we just like sit and
just sit on poofs and
just think.
Chat.
And just we sit in silence. We think.
Sit in silence.
We meditate on the shape of things to come. Okay. But no. It's funny because at the end of the last scene, when it's Obi-Wan and Mace and Yoda talking about like, well, that was a long day, huh? There's only one seat left, and it's just Yoda. Mm-hmm. So I was like, does that imply that they bring in the seats every time they have a meeting, or do they come out from the floor?
Yes.
Do they have a staff?
Probably
The
floor.
Like, because I was like, where do those chairs go? Those are pretty big chairs. It looks like part of them are metal, so I bet they're heavy. Mm-hmm. Also, do you think their legs get tired? Because they're always sitting cross-legged, like crisscross applesauce.
Yes.
Do you think their legs could fall asleep?
Sitting crisscross applesauce.
But for hours? What if you have a 12-hour council session?
You switch.
Oh, but I feel like
switch sides.
Maybe use the force so your legs don't fall asleep.
Yeah, use the force to continue your blood circulation.
What else here? No one has any chemistry in this movie. That is, especially more so than the last one, is built on characters having chemistry.
Well, and something that's weird is that everyone can see, particularly Obi, that Anakin is weird with Padme, and yet they delegate him to be the one to babysit her. And be together and go to a different planet and spend time together.
We talked about in the last one how in a lot of ways the Jedi produced Darth Vader. That had Anakin had the guidance that he needed, that allowed him to flourish and be the best version of himself as he was, he would not have become Darth Vader. It's like this restrictive, drastic kind of suppressing of everything about you. Mm-hmm. That is what creates Darth Vader. And then on top of it, they make it worse. It's so not only can you're not allowed to really feel emotions. We're going to put you in a situation that's designed to make you feel things. Because why not?
With someone you already feel for.
That you already have feelings for and affection. Even if not romantic, just this person.
Which, it
should be someone that doesn't know Padme at all. But they try to argue it needs to be someone that she's comfortable with. But if it's about protecting her, give her some random dude. Give her Kid Fisto, the tentacle man.
Well, no, they can't just trust any random person because they might be out on it.
No, I'm saying random as in random to her. Not random to them. They would vet them.
I know, but they still.
But you can say that about Anakin. Or they're thinking, well he loves her, he won't murder her.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Because I see it, right? It's kind of a low thing, right, in priorities or whatnot. So you would send a lower guy, Yoda wouldn't go to sit with her, right, and protect her. But then we see what Yoda's doing. He's just teaching Sunday school. He's just teaching class.
Bro, don't you have better shit to do?
Yeah.
And then just a week, he's gonna be a general. Out. He's gonna become a general.
There's a war. We're on the precipice of a war, and you're just teaching class like nothing's wrong.
So back to what I was saying about chemistry.
Sure.
Before, I don't even know why we do it. So, the movie really wants us to be because again, Obi-Wan in A New Hope is Anakin, he was a good friend or whatever. They have no friendship in this movie. And not even just that's the point. No, not on the script level. I mean, the actors have zero chemistry. Mm. And neither do Padme and Anakin, right? And we talked about this before. The love story is just awful. Not just because of the acting, but just the fact that Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman just do not have chemistry. At all. And again, the dialogue only makes that worse. Mm-hmm. When he's the kiss, the I'm still haunted by the kiss you never should have given me, and now I pray that kiss will not become a scar. It's so it feels
weird.
Like a teenager writing really dramatic, almost love poetry to his crush. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel like something a human being would say. But it doesn't also feel that's the point. He's trying to verbalize it. No. This is not diegetic. George Lucas, it's just bad writing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because Because it changes kind of formality in some way, where it's like trying to be like almost like Shakespearean, whereas like every other time before this, like they just speak like normal modern people, right? So you don't have to be so, have such a limerick or something to your speech and such.
It's like, bro, if she likes you, she likes you.
You could just be like, I can't stop thinking about when we kissed. Ugh, I wish we hadn't done that. Because now, now I'm sad.
Now I'm sad.
Or like something, like, I hope it doesn't turn into scar tissue.
And she's like, we can't do this. Also, she's looking she's breasting very boobily in that scene. They give her like a thing that it kind of pushes up her breasts. So it's like you couldn't pick the most sensual outfit Padme to wear while you're having this conversation about how you guys can't be in love. Like, if you really wanted to send the signal, you should have wore like those almost like those nightgowns that like old women would wear. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're wearing like the most like sexy outfit possible, sort of like the gold bikini your daughter will eventually wear. Like, I think you're sending the wrong signal to him.
She can wear whatever the fuck she wants.
No, but I'm saying, like, if you're trying to get him to not like you, showing off the goods isn't gonna make him not like you anymore. Less.
Tough nuts.
All right, I had a couple other notes,
warm on space.
But I'm just calling it. I'm just throwing in the towel.
You're not doing more notes?
I had a few other things of notes, but I think we should just move on to the trivia.
Why?
Because I feel like this is getting off the rails.
Okay.
Because we're all over the place, and I think we're having trouble clenching on to cogent things. Okay. So here's some trivia. Okay. You love trivia. This should be you should celebrate.
Yes, I love trivia.
You love to be trivialized.
Just speak.
When filming the Naboo scenes, George Lucas allowed Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman to improvise their dialogue. According to Portman, it quickly got inappropriate.
Oh.
Let me see, some of these we already talked about. Hayden Christensen claimed to have greatly enjoyed filming the bar scene because it was all a real set and not just a green screen. So again, at least you have like this thing of like, I can actually...
Am I right?
Actors, they're so annoying. They require things like things. Samuel L. Jackson has said that the words "bad motherfucker" are engraved on the hilt of his lightsaber. The same words are famously printed on the wallet of Jackson's character Jules Winfield in Pulp Fiction.
Nice.
That's pretty awesome. When Obi-Wan and Anakin enter the sports bar in Coruscant to search for the assassin Sam Wessel, several actors, actresses, and crew members from the Star Wars movies can be spotted, including Ahmed Best, who's Jar Jar Binks, and Anthony Daniels, who's C-3PO. I noticed them when we were watching.
Oh, I don't know what they look like, so I wouldn't know.
Exactly. But I do, because I'm a nerd. The spin-off video game Star Wars Bounty Hunter, which came out in 2002, which is a prequel to this film, reveals how Jango Fett was chosen as the genetic model for the clone army.
Oh.
Jango Fett was hired, along with other bounty hunters, by Count Dooku to hunt down and eliminate Komari Vosa, Dooku's former apprentice, which Jango Fett succeeded in doing. Count Dooku revealed that the bounty hunt was a test, and that the bounty hunter that succeeded in killing Komari Vosa would go with Count Dooku to Kamino to be cloned, which Fett agreed on the condition that he wanted one unaltered clone for himself, which would become Boba Fett. That's something we didn't really talk about with this. The fact that we get the origin of Boba Fett. That he's like a clone.
Which is weird. But, like father, like son.
And fun fact, a little trivia behind the trivia.
Oh.
So, in order to keep the continuity of everything, when George Lucas did the special editions, but did like the... Because remember how there's been multiple versions of the special editions?
Yeah.
The versions that came out after this movie redub Boba Fett in the original movies with the Jango Fett actor.
Oh.
Because theoretically, when he's grown up, he would have the same voice. Mm-hmm. And then when they did like the Mandalorian and Boba Fett, it was the Jango Fett actor. Because Boba Fett as an adult would with his helmet off look like Jango Fett. Whereas in the originals, it's just some guy doing like a Clint Eastwood impression, essentially.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of cool. I've heard people like that video game too, but I never played it. This is the first Star Wars film that was not the top grossing film of the year in North America. It placed third after Spider-Man and Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. Interesting, because The Two Towers is so it's cool because that came out the same year as this, And it's like everything that this movie wants to be, but is not. Like, it's like a big epic fantasy thing with Christopher Lee as a villain. And also a big battle. And also a big battle.
I forgot.
But the Battle of Helm's Deep is so much better than the Battle of Geonosis in this movie. This movie is just like a big washed out, just like... all the Jedi's fighting it really does just feel like someone playing with action figures. Like, like it doesn't really feel... Like, I don't really care. It is cool. I'm sure it was cool to see all these Jedi's fighting at once, because like we had never seen that before.
I thought it was cool.
Well, yeah. Instead of creating a new C-3PO suit for the film, the designers repainted and aged the one used in the original trilogy. That's kind of neat.
Interesting.
In DVD commentaries, the crew claims that the fight between Jango Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi was intentionally made different from the other fights in the films, in that it is focused more on physical and hand-to-hand combat, something not done in the films often. I noticed that there's a lot of like punching and kicking when they're fighting on Kamino.
Yes. Oh, yes, I remember now.
This was the first film appearance of New Zealander actor Daniel Logan in the role of Boba Fett. Logan asked Sir Christopher Lee how many movies he had made. The famously prolific Lee was not insulted and in fact laughed heartily and informed the younger actor he had appeared in over 200 films. He's like, have you been in a lot of movies, Mr. Lee? He's like, I've been in a few.
and we can see, I don't know about you, but I think Daniel's a little better than Jake. I don't know.
A little bit.
I don't know.
That's not hard to be better than Jake Lloyd.
I'm just saying that
Phantom Menace.
you can't hide under the guise of being a child, because there are some children who...
There are some... I mean, I even said that in the last... There's plenty of good child actors and stuff. Hugh Corshi was originally slated to reprise his role as Captain Panaka from the last film.
I was wondering where he was.
However, he turned down the offer after Lucasfilm refused to let him read the whole script, so his character was written out and replaced with a newly created Chief of Security, Captain Typho, portrayed by Jay Lagaya. They filmed most of this in New Zealand. I think because of the VFX department was there because of the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yeah.
That like Peter Jackson had developed like this whole studio.
Yeah.
Whereas unlike the other one, again, like there was a lot of different locations. Basically, unless they were going somewhere like they go to Italy or Spain or wherever it is for Naboo, which looked beautiful, by the way, in this movie. I think everything else, if they could get away with doing it on green screen, they did it at a New Zealand soundstage. So that's why a lot of the actors like Jango Fett and Typho, they're like New Zealander actors or Australian, because you also get Joel Edgerton as Uncle Owen, who's Australian.
Oh, okay.
But he does a wonderful American accent.
Look at all these people. They're fooling me.
They're fooling you. After making this film, Ewan McGregor appeared in Black Hawk Down, which required him to be clean-shaven and to have an extremely close buzz cut. New scenes with Obi-Wan were then added to this film in post-production. Since McGregor had not had enough time to regrow his hair or a full beard, he had to be fitted with a hairpiece and prosthetic beard, which is often easily distinguished from his natural hair as it appears in the rest of the film. These scenes include the conversation between Obi-Wan and Anakin in the elevator, the exchange concerning the Changeling in the Outlander Club, and the Jedi Temple talk between Obi-Wan, Mace, and Yoda, and his interrogation by Count Dooku. So some shots he had a wig on, instead of just growing his hair out.
I didn't notice.
I love how he looks like Jesus.
I also wasn't looking, so maybe if you look.
I was just letting the whole thing wash over me. I also like how he kind of looks like Jesus in this movie.
He does.
Like there's memes how people will trick old people on Facebook because they're dumb. Like they'll share a picture of Obi-Wan from this movie, and the caption will be like, "Share if you love Christ."
Oh my god.
And people will share it, being like, "Who else will share?"
Stop memeing each other.
Yeah. Christopher Lee was very good friends with Peter Cushing, who played Grand Moff Tarkin in the first Star Wars film. The evil guy, dude.
Oh, yes.
See, why do you do... You went, you had no idea who it was. Why do you do that?
Because it doesn't... Continue.
Can't you remember things?
All these weird names? No!
Peter Cushing, half of it is the name of your fiance. Peter's a weird name.
No, I don't have the capacity.
So they were very good friends. Both appeared together in many films, but never in a Star Wars film together, as Cushing died in 1994. The role of Grand Moff Tarkin was in fact originally offered to Lee in 1976, but he turned it down, which he later said was one of his biggest regrets. Cushing and Lee were both good friends for nearly 40 years until Cushing's death. Interesting. I'm imagining an alternate universe where Christopher Lee was in the first Star Wars movie. That'd be kind of cool.
Then who would be Count Dooku?
Someone else.
Oh, no.
I'm sure there was someone else out there who could have done it.
No, but he's so good at Count Dooku.
He's such an iconic role.
I actually really like Count Dooku.
Well, again, like everything with the prequels, the expanded stuff makes him cooler and more interesting. I feel like this movie doesn't make him cool at all.
Well, I think he has more to say in the next one. Right?
Kind of. He gets killed off in like the first 10 minutes.
Oh, maybe not.
Gets beheaded.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Again, the expanded stuff, it fills in the gaps of his characterization. Again, things this movie is not concerned with like character and motivation and things like that. George Lucas's original idea for the Clone Wars was for everybody in the galaxy fighting their own clones.
Oh.
That would have been kind of interesting.
That
like Obi versus Obi.
That would have been a VFX fuck.
Yeah. A conversation between Obi-Wan and librarian Jocasta Nu was written and filmed but deleted and would have identified the bust that Obi-Wan was looking at to be Count Dooku. And again, I think I said in one of the newer comics, they implied that she had a big crush on Dooku, so when he was a Jedi, he would use that to, like, get her to help him with stuff.
Yeah, it's so strange.
Although Newt Gunray and Shmi Skywalker were major supporting characters in the last film, neither character's name was given in dialogue until this film. It's like no one says Shmi Skywalker or Newt Gunray in the last one, I guess.
Yeah, she's just mom.
It's kind of like Palpatine in the original trilogy. I think press things would say like playing Emperor Palpatine or whatever, but I don't think they ever say his name in the original movies. Jedi Master Sifo Dyas was originally just a flimsy alias for Darth Sidious known as Sido Dyas, like Sidious.
Yes.
But a typo was made in the script. George Lucas preferred the new name, and a plot point about him was changed to make him an actual Jedi who had disappeared. None of the movies ever revealed if Master Sifo Dyas was responsible for ordering the clone army, or if someone else used his name, but the matter was later addressed in the Clone Wars TV series.
That's amazing. History was made.
Because of a typo.
Because of a typo.
George is like, interesting. The novelization of Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, states that Owen Lars was Obi-Wan's brother instead of Anakin's stepbrother, as finally shown in this movie. So that's another thing. It's like, it doesn't retcon anything, but when you're watching the originals, you're like, surely Owen is someone's brother. Like either his maternal uncle or his paternal... No, but not his stepbrother that he meets one time. Like this is the only time he ever meets his brother, stepbrother, and then leaves. And the next time we see him, Obi-Wan's bringing Luke as a baby.
Well, I think that's the point, is because if he knew him well enough, then he might have gone to visit him later or something. Then Luke wouldn't be a good disguise. You see what I'm saying?
A, that's only because it was written in the way it was written.
Oh my god.
And B,
just working within the confines of the story.
Even within the confines of the story, he still knows Owen exists, but he doesn't know he has children. So it wouldn't matter whether it's his real brother or stepbrother. Because he knows, in both scenarios, he knows Owen exists.
Now.
Yeah, but are you saying that by the time he becomes Darth Vader, he would know? He would know. He knows in this version, too. He knows Owen exists.
I know, but I'm saying if he's just met him the one time...
I'm just saying that the implication is, like, you've made it unnecessarily convoluted.
Yes.
That it's actually his stepbrother that he only meets one time.
Yes.
That he didn't even grow up with. Like, it's another example of just, like, an implication that is just retconned.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, unnecessarily. According to the official website, one of the many considered ideas for the character, who would eventually become Count Dooku, was a female Sith. The rejected concepts for this later found their way into creating a new character, Asajj Ventress, who later appeared extensively in the Clone Wars comics, cartoons, and novels. That's the bald lady that you like.
Oh, the bald lady.
The bald, like, pale white lady. Like, she's not just white, like, race-wise. She's white, like white, like the color white.
And she's the evil lady.
Yes. In Count Dooku's backstory, he left the Jedi Order and reclaimed his birthright as Count of Sereno. That's why he's called Count Dooku. Like, he was, like, born into royalty.
Oh.
George Lucas himself designed Padme's black corset gown that she wears in the scene by the fireplace. George Lucas is so weird. He's like, we're going to make this extra sexy.
But it's so strange. He's so hands-on with, like, so many different things.
I know. And then not hands-on in other things.
Be hands-on in the script.
Just don't be handsy.
Oh, yeah, don't be handsy.
Tamora Morrison, who plays Jango Fett, had no idea who Boba Fett even was when he was cast as the character's father. He was like, I got this role. Nice. The famous boy band, *NSYNC, filmed a scene of them playing Jedi in the nightclub scene near the beginning, but were cut out of the final film. That's probably for the best. It'd be really jarring if NSYNC were in Star Wars. Although only used briefly in the duel between Anakin and Dooku, this is the first film in the series in which lightsabers reflect on surfaces. During the production of the original trilogy and the prequels, the lightsaber props usually had steel rods and the beams were later added in post-production. Because of that, they lacked any reflections. In the sequel trilogy, they designed new prop lightsabers that actually have like the glow of the color.
Light, yeah.
So you can like see it on Daisy Ridley's like face, like reflecting off her face. It's one of those things you don't think about, but then when you see it done and then you see it without the reflection, you're kind of like, it's kind of weird that this giant light source isn't bouncing off of it. In the Jedi Temple, one of the younglings being trained by Yoda is named Liam, after Liam Neeson, who played Qui-Gon Jinn.
I noticed that.
I was like, Liam?
And I was...
Shouldn't he have a name like Gubano?
No!
Gubano Strafe or
I
something?
noticed that, and I was like...
Oh.
Because R.I.P. Liam, but then also R.I.P. Younglings.
No! When Anakin is slaughtering the Tusken Raiders, Qui-Gon's voice can be heard in the background. This is no accident. According to Star Wars canon, Qui-Gon's Force Ghost tried to stop Anakin's rage, but failed.
Yeah, he's like, no.
He's like, no!
Anakin, no.
He's like, Anakin, no! According to Star Wars canon, the Tusken Raiders who kidnapped Shmi Skywalker were paid to do so by Count Dooku. That's so convoluted. How did they know that they would... Anyway, Dooku had done this on orders from his master Darth Sidious, but this was never revealed on screen. In Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, Chancellor Palpatine was supposed to reveal this to Anakin during his fight with Count Dooku, but it was left out of the final cut as well.
Well, okay, at least that gives a reason, as opposed to like, I don't know, they just take
as like a prize
for
almost.
no reason. They just take her to take her.
They take her to take her. Lord Dukas. George Lucas briefly toyed with the idea to have Jango Fett's severed head fall out of the helmet as young Boba was holding it, but he ultimately thought it would be too cruel.
I think the whole situation is already fucked enough.
Yeah. This one's really interesting I didn't know about. While on location in Tunisia, George Lucas made one shot intended for Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith of Obi-Wan delivering baby Luke to Lars's homestead. He claimed he would not be returning to Tunisia, probably because he was like, fuck this shit. I'm never coming back here again.
Too much sand.
And if he needed another shot, he wouldn't get it. Since Ewan McGregor did not participate in the Tunisia shoot, a wide shot of a double was filmed handing over a doll to Owen Lars. However, during production of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, it was decided that Obi-Wan should hand the infant to Beru instead. All three were filmed separately in front of a green screen. The original shot was ultimately not even used.
The ant.
Yeah, because they filmed this version of the scene where he hands it to the uncle.
Yeah.
But then they decided it should be the aunt. So he was like, well, we have to refilm the whole thing. So they just did it with the green screens, I guess.
Yeah. No, I understand the situation. I was just confirming that Beru was the ant.
Beru. As Zam dies, who's like the female bounty hunter, after being shot with a toxic dart and reverts to her alien form, which I told you off mic, scared me so much as a kid that I couldn't watch the movie for like a couple weeks after. It gave me nightmares. She says in her alien language, Morashani Slimo, which is Huttese for bounty hunter slimeball, referring to Jango.
Oh.
Who had just assassinated her.
I thought, well, because they were with her, right? So I thought she was telling them the answer to their question, but just in a different language. But no,
Anakin speaks Huttese. Remember, he's speaking it to Watto in the last one, in Sebulba.
Oh,
So Anakin would understand the
I
language.
didn't know it was Huttese.
Well, Anakin's a super. He knows all languages. In the Star Wars novel Tatooine Ghosts, it is related that Anakin's slaughter of the Tusken Raiders passed into their folklore. The battle is commemorated with a dance to the sounds of a lightsaber. It's kind of interesting. Do you want to hear some critical reception?
Yes.
So, interestingly, this actually has a better Rotten Tomatoes score.
It does, yeah.
It has a
That's weird.
65%. The critical consensus reads, quote, Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones benefits from an increased emphasis on thrilling action, although they're once again undercut by ponderous plot points and underdeveloped characters, end quote. I agree with everything about that, but it's shocking that it technically has a better critical reception than the last one. Because you would think, not only because I think the last one was better, but also you would think that at least the initial reviews for Phantom Menace was more positive because, like, they weren't quite ready to admit to themselves that the movie actually kind of wasn't good. Mm. So a lot of the reviews were probably like, it's not perfect, but it scratches the itch. Like,
yeah.
A lot of people, I think, tried to convince themselves that it was great because the hype was, like, they wanted it to be so great.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised to see this. Numerous critics characterized the dialogue as stiff and flat. The acting was also disparaged by some critics. Conversely, other critics felt fans would be pleased to see that Jar Jar Binks has only a minor role. Though minor, in terms of the amount of time, but he is actually the reason that the entire narrative of the whole Skywalker saga happens. Because he's the one who convinces everyone to vote for emergency powers for the Supreme Chancellor.
Whoops.
Whoopsie! Additionally, Jar Jar's attempts at comic relief scene in The Phantom Menace were toned down. Instead, C-3PO reprised some of his bumbling traditions in that role. McGregor referred to the swordplay in the film as unsatisfactory when comparing it to the climactic duel in Revenge of the Sith as it neared release. Yeah, that's the thing I've talked. Like, this probably is one of the worst lightsaber battles in any of the movies, like the main movies, because it's not very long and it's not very interesting. Like, it doesn't work because at least with the last one.
Which one are you talking about? In the Coliseum?
No, the lightsaber. No, like between Dooku and then Anakin and Obi-Wan,
okay.
Which literally goes on for maybe 2 minutes, and then him and Yoda fight for about 2 minutes, and then it's over.
Yeah.
Because at least with the last one, it was like a visual feast, even if it was perhaps over choreographed, and it kind of like I became desensitized to it. This one is neither thematically interesting nor a visual feast. You know.
Well, he's old. He could only do so much.
They made it that way.
They didn't make him old.
They didn't have to cast an old man.
They did because he is Count Dooku.
That makes no sense.
Christopher Lee is Count Dooku.
Okay. RealViews.net's James Berardinelli gave a positive review saying, quote, in a time when, more often than not, sequels disappoint, it's refreshing to uncover something this high profile that fulfills the promise of its name and adds another title to a storied legacy, end quote. You're insane, James. Roger Ebert, who had praised the previous Star Wars films, gave Episode 2 only 2 out of 4 stars, noting, quote, as someone who admired the freshness and energy of the earlier films, I was amazed at the end of Episode 2 to realize that I had not heard one line of quotable, memorable dialogue, end quote. About Anakin and Padme's relationship, Ebert stated, quote, there is not a romantic word they exchanged that has not long since been reduced to cliche, end quote. Amen. So amen, brother.
He's looking for the quotables.
Well, it's just like something that like sticks, like is culturally.
No, yeah, of course.
Impactful.
Yes, I know exactly what he's talking about.
Leonard Maltin, who also liked all the previous installments, awarded 2 stars out of 4 to this endeavor as well, as seen in his movie and video guide from 2002 edition onward. Maltin cited an, quote, overlong story, end quote, as reason for his dissatisfaction, and added, quote, wooden characterizations, the dialogue don't help, end quote. Very true. In terms of modern reception, it does have a slightly worse rating than Phantom Menace. It has a 2.85 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I found some funny reviews for us to enjoy. We are a Letterboxd review enjoyers. Gal Pacino says, I just like that name.
LOL.
LOL LMAO. Gal Pacino says, quote, I'm convinced that Anakin subconsciously used the Force to make Padme slowly fall in love with him. Because there's simply no way a queen/galactic senator would ever get with a creepy, whiny child murderer with a mini ponytail.
Low-key? Yeah.
Yes.
Like, honestly, maybe, yeah.
He was using his powers. Wes writes, quote, nothing gets me more hot and bothered than when I'm on a romantic picnic with a guy at a scenic waterfall retreat and he tells me he supports a fascist party. That really just get the juices going, right? Amaya writes, must a movie be good? Is it not enough to see hot characters struggle internally? And there may be some truth to that. Okay, Viviana, what was your favorite part of this movie? Me, it was when it was over.
No, it wasn't. No. When was it? What was yours?
Probably, I probably should think about it, but my immediate answer is Dexter Jettster. I love Dexter Jettster. I love Dexter Jettster.
Why?
I would watch a whole movie just about Dexter Jettster. Like, how does he know all this stuff? Like, what was his backstory?
I don't know. My favorite part is Count Dooku, and also an honorable mention for the scene with Padme in the Colosseum, because girl power. So
Girl power. Well, if girl power is that sexy, then I'm a feminist.
because like, it's also cool.
Did it
because,
empower you
like,
as a woman?
Sure. But it's also cool though, because like Leia is also like in the stuff, so like it's
Like
not
mother,
like
like daughter.
it's not like the classic like, oh, help me, blah.
She's always been a badass.
You know, yeah.
It kind of sucks in the next one. She doesn't really do anything. She's only in a couple scenes, and she's like crying.
She did.
most of it. Yeah, she just cries a lot and then dies.
She did.
Okay, all right then, Viviana. Favorite part.
Not
favorite part. Excuse me. 1 to 10. What are you giving Star Wars Episode 2: Attack of the Clones?
Ugh, I don't know. I think I'm gonna do a 6.
6. Okay.
And put it under.
You only have 1 6. So you have Star Wars
Under-
Droids: The Great Heap.
I know. Yeah. So put it under Empire Strikes Back.
Okay. So you like it. So it's below Empire Strikes Back, but above Star Wars Droids: The Great Heap.
Yeah.
The Great Heap. Heap. Okay. Interesting. So it's kind of like right in the middle for you, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And for you.
I'm going back and forth between a 4 and a 5.
Whoa.
Because I'm trying to decide, is it mediocre?
You gave the Star Wars Holiday Special a 4. You think it's Holiday Special bad?
Well, I think it would. If I give it a 4, it would be above the Holiday Special.
It's still the same number.
No, I think I'm gonna give it a 5. I think I'm gonna give it a 5
I mean, do whatever you
because
want. I'm just...
because there are moments that are a net positive, but there's a lot of moments that are also a net negative. And I feel like when all's said and done, it kind of just equalizes out to ultimately something that's mediocre. That we talked about being laughably bad. It's not laughably bad. It is just dull and uninteresting. And what did Roger Ebert? Just cliche. That a lot of it is just cliche.
Is it cliche, or did it make the cliche?
No. I don't think this movie invented anything it has done. So I'm going to give it a 5. And for just sheer value of it being, you know, a nostalgic Star Wars prequel that does have some things I like, I'm going to put it above Star Wars Droids, as you did. But that would be below the Ewok Adventure. So yes, I enjoy the Ewok movies more than Attack of the Clones.
Oh my god.
I will happily say that with no shame, whatsoever.
Oh my god.
Oy vey, this was a slog of a episode. It was a slog of a movie. This was just all kinds of fucked up. But the next one,
A lot going on.
the next one is one of my faves. But it's not what you think. That's it for this week's episode of Now That's What I Call a Franchise. Next week, we'll be watching the next film in the franchise, the 2003 mini-series,
What?
Star Wars, Clone Wars. No the, because that's different.
Oh.
It's not the Clone Wars. That comes later. This is just Star Wars, Clone Wars.
But there's a thing
Called
that's
the Clone Wars, yes.
the same, but Star Wars, the Clone Wars?
Yes. But this is Star Wars, Clone Wars. No the.
This is getting like Fast and Furious level. Okay.
Two wars. Viviana, where can they find us?
Jesus Christ. You guys can find us wherever you get your podcasts, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Franchise Podcast.
And if you have the time, leave a rating for us on Apple Podcasts, because apparently that helps.
And if you have even more time, leave us a review too.
We know you have many podcasting options, and we thank you for choosing us. Peace out, guys.
Later, gamers.